Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out to Abraham Mohammed, Adam, Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Blue Ridge Ranger, Brooke Stone Cypher. I think I got a new one. Thank you very much indeed. Burn flat till my stomach is as flat as the earth. Chow Yun Cat, Dank, Dave Rakia Gafford, David Robinson, David Wayne Foster, Daz Studio 68, Edwin Johnson, Erwin Jennisons, Felix Hung, Fireball X, God Rockin', Henrik 86, Joshua Balsimo, Kirsten Smith, Liam Nedrick, Life is Short, Maria Neelands, Matt, Missouri Bear, Nagara, Nathan Thompson, Naibai, Qatar Craig, Renee, Rune, Sally Ballis, Skeptic 936, Silver Umbrella, Texas Mike, The Real Gabster, Tina Baker, Tom Herkins, Unbelievable Productions, and Windrider got there in the end. So a massive shout out of appreciation to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now we do have a fair few people in both Discord, and I think we've got 10th Man in G+, so I'll raise the mics on them and you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for the first live show. Hey 10th Man.
Hey, how you doing? Hello, Discord. Hello, Discord.
I think anybody that was trying to say anything is not on.
Hello.
Light Energy's off mute now. Fuzzy Ewok, you're off mute now.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
The truth.
What's new, Discord?
It's new, Discord. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Very good.
Refraction apparently is this new thing.
Sounds super new.
I guess the definition of refraction is new. That's the new thing. The definition just keeps changing to whatever it suits them.
Yeah, I think John went over that, or Quantum Eraser went over that in the most recent Ballbusters. In other words, pointing out that they're having multiple definitions is merely a equivocation fallacy. Same goes for the Horizon. Got multiple definitions for it. For the same thing.
I agree. Yeah, they haven't figured that out yet, or they just don't want to know. I did get my dad to concede a little bit the other day when bringing this up. He said, he's like, well, after many hours of it, giving me a formula, I'm like, look, there's an R right there. Where'd you get it? How did you get that number? It's, well, I mean, you got to assume something. Okay, cool. And I've been let that go since.
Fair enough.
It admitted to having assumptions when it comes to the very nature of the scientific proof and evidence of the world, but no big deal. Just assumptions.
Yeah, it's definitely a start. It's pushed a step in the right direction, as they say.
Who's speaking now?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Discord?
Fuzzy Ewok talking about his father.
Hey, Fuzzy, how you doing?
Living the dream. How are you?
Awesome. Good. So let me see if I got that right. Your dad is not, he's still on the globe side, and he asked you where the radius came from?
No, he's very much on the other side, but he's one of those zealots we talk about, and he just was not getting it. And for a very long time, I've been wearing him down. And prove it right now, and he writes down a formula. I can't remember which one. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, but he, and there was an R, and I'm like, right there, R, right? Where are you getting the data to do this formula for your quote unquote proof? He's like, well, you at a certain point, you got to assume something.
Got it. I thought he was asking you where the R came from, but now it makes more sense. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, they got R from Al Barini, according to yesterday's Ballbuster.
Yeah, at best, that's the one thing that we've disproven. At best.
At best. I
At
love it.
best.
At best,
Oh,
we've
what a-
disproved every measurement NASA has ever made. But at best, no big deal.
Mitchell from
and
Australia.
even,
Do you remember yesterday when I mentioned to Quantum Racer that his rebuttal to that was to say, no, instead of 3959, it's 3961. Well, he actually published that. In other words, he did it on a video. You just think, oh, God,
No.
knowing to keep your mouth shut. Now, Mitchell from Australia's like it on, it's like flies on shit. It's all over him. He's like, oh yeah, you reckon it's increased it by a mile, do you? No, I think closer to the size of the sun would be the extrapolation if you reify that edge into a physical horizon. So he shows them the maths. He's like, can you scale? I like Mitchell more and more the more I watch him.
yeah, he's good. He's clever. Did he put out a video on that already, Mitchell?
Yeah.
Oh, my notifications didn't show it. I'd have to go back and check his channel. That's awesome.
Snipped out the bit where AI Overlord was talking about Lewis Rossman yesterday.
Yes, I was going to bring that up as a very good description. AI summarized what you were saying before as well. Both of you did a good one about how people reify models in their own mind and all the powers to be, whoever they are. They've never really, they say it's theoretical. They won't take a real position on it, but then they allow the public and everyone else to reify the concept by constantly showing it in images and stuff. That was brilliant.
But it's more the fact that he compared it to Apple and their followers and their justifications for the failings of any equipment that they might have and worship. It's kind of idolatry when it comes to Apple. But nevertheless, He was comparing and contrasting a video that he'd sent me. I'd seen it anyway from Lewis Rossman. And it was just interesting when he was talking about Apple followers and Apple fanboys. That's how they describe it in the tech. I think fanboy. So they're saying, look, all the fanboys just defend anything that's ever wrong with it and say things like, you're using the phone wrong. Which I love. Yeah.
But that's what obviously I'm referencing that because AI came and summarized it beautifully how the ballers do that with the reification of everything in their own mind. They're the ones who have to convince themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, look at all the quotes.
I think that's why it's so hard to undo.
Yeah, because it's self-perpetuating. You'll self-program or self-reprogram, or you'll endure cognitive dissonance to defend the model that's broken, and so on and so forth. But in doing so, you're putting it out there as well, as much as you can trying to reconvince yourself. You're also potentially smearing a layer of bullshit over a problem that might exist, and that might help some next man who might come across the same problem and go, well, how do I solve this problem? And then Joe Blogg's public's information that he's manifested out of nowhere to try and justify a problem that he sees makes its way through the rest of the community. And it's the same with what we're doing now with the Black Swan. We hear the nonsense rebuttal of a apparent horizon perpetuated throughout the whole Globehead community, because presumably a couple of dudes have mentioned it, and then next thing you know, they're all parroting. It's like, why are you all parroting this redundant term? And every time you do it, you're digging your grave deeper. But there we go. That's just what we're dealing with. And like I say, it's the equivalent of an Apple fanboy justifying their failings in keyboards or phones dropping signals.
Well, doesn't this go back to...
Is my microphone working okay? Can you hear me okay? Is it?
Yes, we hear you, Spurs. Good to have you.
Excellent, I heard you right as I was speaking, Spurs.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No worries.
Well, let me finish and you can have Nathan. See if I can remember what I was saying. Oh, yes. When you first share with, before someone really labels you flat earther right when you first found out, or when I first started seeing these things and was so excited, still am, of course. And I shared it with some people, but right at the beginning, right? And of course, we would be talking and we'd say, what's going on here? And what was going on was there was an ego issue. There was a pride issue. I can't have been fooled all this time, have been fooled by anyone all this time. I'm too smart to be fooled. And come to find out, no one fooled you but yourself. It's self-induced.
And it's not just that.
That's what makes it so hard.
Who are you to figure it out before I could? It's not just, I was fooled and I fooled myself. Right?
Yeah, that's it, Chuck.
Yeah,
multitasking is impossible.
Yep.
Look at.
All right, Spurs, you got the floor.
He's run away.
Who?
No, he's still here.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. So as you know, I've been going back and forth with the globe earthers, and it's a real problem for them. They kind of come up with all excuses. And I don't know if you've heard, or if you've heard, Blue Marble Science response is that, well, the radius is off. Still a globe, but they've obviously made a mistake in their calculations. Now, the globe earthers understand it that over 500 years, they've taken time to put things together. Now, who's to say that they need another 100 years to fix it? So my point of this was, is that is there going to come a point? What?
Sorry, I'm queuing up Mitchell's response. I'm really sorry. You're on the same line. I can't help it.
Sorry, yeah. So because of what they're doing, they're extending the ball or short, whatever they're doing, they're saying it's a ball. So will there become a point, Nathan? Do you think there will become a point when we flat earthers have to prove the earth is flat? Now,
they already asked for that. That was an
argument.
But
what I'm saying is that what I mean is that if they're going to say, well, we've just got the numbers wrong, and then to them they'll be happy to start all over again, waste another 500 years, and say we're going to work it out. Just leave it with us. If we leave it with them, for them to do that,
what are you
then
talking
that puts
about?
us on in the back burner still. And because when they ask us, I know that we don't have a model. I'm not saying we should build a model. I'm not saying we should have any of those things. But if that's how the paradigm works, what I'm asking, Nathan, what hope does flat earthers have of making headway if they're going to just say nonsense like, well, it's just the radius is wrong, or they've got a couple of, they'll just work, give us another 100 years.
You came just at the wrong moment. You came just after I'd been explaining how people will recognitively program themselves of their own volition if they want to, and then perpetuate that out. Now, this is an introspective thing, not an outrospective thing. In other words, I'm talking verbally to you, Spurs, but metaphorically, or whatever the word is, to the audience. You have a choice. You can either accept the nonsense and justify the nonsense, and maybe come up with a new smear of bullshit for the nonsense when something doesn't work out right. Or you can accept the obvious and observable nature of reality, which is to say, it is flat. That much is obvious. There is no justifiable reason to think you're on a sphere beyond geometric mathematics that remove perspective and replace it with an earth curve obstruction at the horizon that's physical. Now, we're debunking these things, Spurs, and if you choose, you being the audience member that's currently on the sphere side of this argument, choose to justify it and work your cognition to make it work in your mind, then they're going to do that regardless of what you do, Spurs. But that's them as an individual. Now, you're talking about us, like flat earthers are a group. Well, I don't see it that way. I know a lot of people on the panel do, but me personally, you're never going to appeal to me in that way. I'm one dude. And the way I see it isn't necessarily the way anybody else is going to see it. I'll argue my case, but am I actually trying to convince the person in the audience to take my side? Not really. That's up to them. They can do whatever they like. I'm not going to try and shove it down their throat that they must accept something that is demonstrated to be proven to be wrong. At that point, it's up to you, isn't it? I'm not going to shake you and go, can't you see how stupid you're being? I'll tell the one next man, the dude who comes on the panel, that he's being stupid because he's in direct conversation to me. But as for converting the world, Spurs, give up on that dream.
Well, so I don't know how this will be received then. So hear me out a second or two. So there's paths, different paths. So now I'm on a path of, well, why am I doing this? Am I doing this for my own personal gain, where people say, "Oh, well done, Spurs. You've told me, pat on the back kind of thing. You've just told me the Earth is not a globe and all this kind of stuff." Or are we trying to expose the liars, and stop this system, the actual system, or trying to? I know we're probably not going to make the effect of actually turn everything over, but the goal, the path, the target, is it an individual one where it's like, well, I'm going to tell the world it's flat, it's not a ball, and then people will say, "Oh, well done you, you've just told me"? Or is it a mission of where we is it a mission of where, we get together, as we've done as a community, and we actually find out where we live, not just about, because the globe's not hard to debunk. It's you spend 20 minutes with a person in the streets, you talk to them. If they're honest, they understand, it's not a globe, right? But then they want to know what it is. So the next point is, what do we do? Are we in this for, or are you, whoever's in this, are they in it for personal, well, this is my mission, just to tell the world that the Earth is flat, it's not a ball, and that's just me done? Or is it, well, I've had enough of this lie, this is atrocious, should we change, or at least try to do something so this lie doesn't happen again? I mean, who's to say? I mean, once we tell people it's not a globe, that another lie doesn't just spring up, and we have the same problem again. So
Spurs, what
does this
street
ever
are
have an
you
end?
on?
What street are you on? Because I'm trying to be clear, so it's not taken the wrong way. So it's not like
clear. It was a 3-minute question.
Go on.
Bloody hell.
Sorry,
right, I'll try and answer you. No, it's you as an individual, Spurs, or anybody watching as an individual. And what are we doing? We're educating people. This video has got a designation of education at the bottom of it. And I'm trying to explain that it isn't necessarily even a lie. They've made it overtly clear where things are hypothetical, where things are not. They don't make it clear that you need to reify it. It's not even implied. People just do. Now that's the bit we're pointing out. But when we take them to the actual rhetoric and explain that the idea of a physical geometric horizon is a thought experiment, they're laying it out for you. So we're not exposing any lies. Quite the contrary, we're saying here, they're telling you that it's not real. So are we exposing a lie, or using their own rhetoric to explain where they've said to you as an individual, Spurs, that it isn't actually as kosher as it might seem?
Well, you want me to respond now, yeah?
Got 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I'm going, well, what's happened to me? I feel like I've been lied to. I feel like I've been deceived. Now, that's the point. Others, I feel, have also been deceived. I feel they've been lied to. And that's how I feel about it. It's like, well, hold on a minute. So the Earth's not a globe. What do you mean it's not a globe? But you told us it's a globe. That's what the system has told us. And, we're supposed to trust our government, supposed to trust our system. Why shouldn't we? Why should we not trust a government who's supposed to have the interests of the people? We are the people. But now we find ourselves on our own mission, trying to governize what is and what isn't. We're changing people's minds. We're telling them that the government are lying to them, NASA are lying to them, and I'm not saying that we should give them something to replace, but at what point do we do something about it? If like I say, Blue Marble is going to say, well,
Jesus Christ,
we just got
try and keep
wrong.
it concise. I said you got a minute.
We are doing something.
Oh, Jesus wept.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now we are joined by Sleeping Warrior, Righteous Force, Chocolate Saiyan and 10th Man, together with Spurs and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
I think today's going to be an interesting show.
Spurs had
Good
about
morning.
a 3-minute question in the pre-show and literally didn't leave enough time for me to even answer it before doing the intro. There we go. You got forewarned, Spurs, so you didn't get an answer. We'll get to it after housekeeping, though, if that's good by you.
Sure.
Okay. Any
Sure,
signs
sure.
of a physical geometric Earth curve edge?
No.
Any signs of a physical... Well, ask the question again.
Any signs of a physical geometric Earth curve edge?
Physical geometric... Definitely not at the horizon.
Not from Transylvania.
Any signs of Earth curvature?
That took a bite
nope.
out of the argument.
God, this is like
Wow.
blood out of a stone.
These guys are neck deep in it, aren't they?
Enough puns.
so
Any
vain.
signs of axial rotation?
No.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No, because none of them are science.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope.
Any evidence of the R value? Hey, Arwin.
Oh. No, but Mr. Sensible thinks that his R value might have been debunked. Mitchell from Australia has recently released a video in the last couple of hours. He's done a few in the last couple of days. Mr. Sensible still thinks it's okay to double down on changing the radius of Earth.
Right, let's play it out.
That at best, if everything you said was correct, and it wasn't, then you'd have disproved the radius of 3959, i.e. it would be a slightly different radius.
A slightly different radius? Well, let's do the actual maths then. Here it is set out for everyone to go over in your own leisure. Using the values from the Black Swan image of a 1 foot observer height and a 10-mile distance horizon, you can clearly see we have a 264,000 mile radius.
Thank you for that, Mitchell. You're on it like flies on you know what. Big shout out to you.
What was really interesting is that he only credited Mitchell with 1 mile from 3959 to 3960. Now, aside from the fact that he can't change the fixed size of the radius, because that's the value that they give us, the fact that he was doing it just by 1 mile tells me that the guy can't scale, because that 1 mile doesn't make the horizon go behind the oil platforms. It needs to be huge, like half the size of the sun, for it to be able to explain that to 10 miles. And we clearly see further than 10 miles. So the fact that he wants to change it to explain it is bad, but then he credits us with just 1 mile difference on his radius shows that the guy is completely and utterly incompetent. And there's a word we can use to describe somebody that's incompetent if we wanted to insult them. Does anybody know what that word might be?
Moron.
Anyway.
Yeah. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Only in your mind.
Wait, so if the radius got bigger, does that mean that the core got bigger too? And wouldn't that affect gravity too?
And the distance to the sun must change, and the distance to Pluto must change, and the distance to Venus must change.
And the value of gravity based on the presupposition that mass is attracted by mass as well.
What's gravity?
Yeah, it's not that, but people will still presuppose that. And so
Not
that
what?
presupposition...
It's all nonsense.
Yeah, Mitchell also covered that.
They got a problem.
Hold on, I'll just plug this. So I'll post a link in the live chat right now if you're watching live to this video, because he does go through that, towards... I'll just play you out a little bit. So he's going through various different things that would change.
You stab your globe in the face.
And
anyway, I won't try and find the snippets. It'll drag things out. But nevertheless, I'll put a link to his show. But he does go through various different things that would be demolished if you start fiddling with R. But there we go. These people don't think far enough ahead. They're just like, yeah, I said it just changed by 1 mile. Oh yeah, well that isn't what would work out by virtue of you actually doing a dip angle measurement based on the black swan. It would take it to 2/3 the size of the sun. So suddenly that leaves you with not 1 mile difference, you little weasel. But I like your sentiment. Oh, I only meant 1 mile. Oh, really? That's what it works out if in the imagery, does it? No. Why do you think everyone's relinquishing the physicality of the horizon all of a sudden, except you? What, so now you're going to actually say, no, it's still physical, just a bit bigger. Let's see how much bigger based on the maths. Oh, well, Mitchell's already done it for me. Well done, Mitchell. Thank you. Any evidence that you can have a gas pressure without a container? Hey, Adam.
Yeah, there was a claim.
Yeah, it was in the same video.
Yeah, it was. He cited some gas plasma in a chamber, and then said that he can demonstrate gas pressure in a vacuum inside a chamber, but he completely didn't realize that he was describing plasma. Apparently, gas and plasma are not the same thing. One of them's got electrostatic charge potential or something of that nature, and it reacts to magnets, whereas gas pressure that we normally breathe doesn't. So it would make it a non sequitur point that he's relying on to demonstrate gas pressure, because plasma is not the same as gas. Meekin, is that right?
Yeah, it's funky, isn't it, plasma? It's kind of like a fourth state of matter, isn't it? It's kind of fluid like a liquid, but incoherent like a gas, but not as it is cohesive slightly, isn't it? In of itself, it needs itself to hold together. So it's
but we definitely don't breathe gas plasma, though, do we?
You burn your lungs. That
sure, but Mitchell got it right the first time. So same exact video, and his response was to say words to the effect of, "Well, you've got a container." And Mr. Sensible was like, "Yeah, I've got a container." It's like, well, obviously then this holds true. You can't have gas pressure without a container. He's like, yeah, but within the container, the ionised gas is not got a container. You're like, what are you double speaking about, you moron?
Actually, also, wouldn't this question be more complete by saying, any evidence of a gas pressure gradient without a container? Because then that just hits their next response, right?
Well, yeah, but in this instance, he's saying, look, I can have gas pressure inside a container without a container. That's what he's essentially saying. So here's my gas pressure container, and inside this container there's going to be a magical process that creates gas pressure without a container. And Mitchell's just gone, what about the container? And he's gone, well, obviously you need the container. It's just comical.
Well, they're going to bring up the same nonsense, answers, regardless of whether you say gradient or not. I'm just saying, but yeah, obviously, they're not even close.
I mean, they're still not even understanding. Chris MCM came into 24/7 yesterday and still tried to assert that the geometric horizon is a straw man, that they don't believe that the Q is correct because they think it's about belief and not based on their geometry, and it's just nonsensical. And then this is continuing after conceding that his his geometric horizon can't see, and that the horizon we do see is apparent and changes position. So it's like they're conceding, but they don't even realize that they're conceding. It's ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah, they haven't spotted the flamethrower, so they're getting burnt, but they don't even realise it. It's like they're immune to it.
I was absolutely right. I think I just need to clarify something a bit. But there you can see video of gas plasma being contained without walls.
The fusion reactor.
It's being contained by the magnets.
That we're seeing.
It's being contained by the magnets. It's not touching the walls. And
Why can't
you
we
think
just? Why does it have to have walls? No, can I just say why does it have to?
Because
have
you
walls?
guys
Can we
keep
not
saying
do
you can't have
just
gas
normal-
pressure without a container. What I'm
You've
demonstrating
clearly
there,
got a container. It's being contained
magnetic.
inside the fusion reactor.
Yes, but it's not touching the fusion reactor. It's
just comical. Well, there's your big container.
What?
So we're asking for gas pressure without a container. So what does he stuff on screen as a demonstration of gas pressure without a container? Well, a giant container. And then says, well, of course you've got to have the container to create the field to have gas pressure without a container. So you need a container to have gas pressure without a container. Ugh. Idiot.
Any proof that you can have that you can have not a container within a container?
Yeah, or any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container, which is precisely what we've asked all along.
It would seem to me
you can't even have a vacuum without a container, right?
It truly is comical. I mean, it's absolutely comical. Like you said, without the container, but here's the container. But so their head is thinking, but there's no container here. But do they see the container? It's just bizarre. It's comical.
Yeah, it's like a magician. Don't look at the container. Look inside the container. There's no container inside the container.
Exactly.
Seems to me this one, Nathan, is a demonstration of if you've got some powerful magnets, you can generate plasma, then you can demonstrate a gas pressure differential, as long as you've got a container first. That seems to be the only inference you can draw from that.
Yeah, supporting our assertion that, well, or a quote from Conspiracy Cats. Quote, without the container there can be no pressure. End quote, Conspiracy Cats 2019. And he's absolutely correct for a change. You can't have gas pressure without a container. And it's nice that he's backing us by showing a container. Let's just shout out a couple of super chats. So shout out to Alexander, who also smashed the super chat in my little Lewis Rossman clip. So thank you very much for both times. Any signs of globe believers? Go on.
I'm saying at least they're listening to us. I mean, at least they're attempting to do this, what they would call an experiment. So it's not like it's fallen on deaf ears. They understand that we're asking for gas pressure without a container, and they're presenting things that they think is the question. So at least they're trying.
At least they're trying. That's right. I'll just finish off that super chat. Any signs of globe believers defending geometrical horizon? No, Alexander. Just them walking into the flamethrowers. But again, it's nice that you're keeping up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Thank you very much for your super chat. Also, Moas Tone, thank you very much for the super chat. It says, how do I join the discussion on Discord? There's a link in the info box. Just click it. It takes you there. The room's currently full, so you have to wait for a gap, I'm afraid. Anywho, that concludes the housekeeping.
I can bounce if someone needs.
No, don't worry. Newbies may try, and if the show's full, the show's full. Bingo and various other people.
Usually folks ask me to move them in, and I hook them up.
Thank you.
There's various people that never talk that we can move if necessary. Bingo, for example.
I like the Mr. Sensible video. He very neatly killed and roasted your black swan.
How did he do that?
By showing that you can
And here we go.
refract a horizon and show more beyond the geometrical horizon.
Beyond the geometric horizon. So the refracted horizon that he demonstrated, Brenda, isn't geometric then?
Well, correct. The apparent horizon and the geometrical horizon are two different
That's redundant.
things. Everybody knows
It's redundant. Redundant, Brenda. All horizons by definition are
No, they're
apparent.
different.
All horizons
That's not
by...
true.
I'll try once more. How many times are you going to interrupt me, bitch? Shut up! Listen up, you stupid fucktard. I'm talking to you, Brenda, you dumb bitch. All horizons are apparent. It's the apparent position where the sky appears. Shut the fuck up, you dumb bitch. Shut up! I'm sick and tired of hearing you dumb fucks tell me that there's two. Shut up and listen once. I haven't got to the end of the sentence. You've interrupted me 3 times. Now I'm shouting at you. So shut up. I don't have to shout at you a 5th and a 6th and a 7th time. I'm going to finish this statement without interruption from a fundy moron who does not appreciate that all horizons, by definition, are apparent. It's not giving you a second horizon. Okay? All of them are apparent. This term for a second one that you're going to invent is redundant. Do you hear me?
The very source that you quote lists 3 horizons.
I haven't quoted any source. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm not quoting anybody. I, Nathan Oakley, am telling you, a moron, that it's part of the definition of a horizon. By definition, it's the apparent position where the sky meets the ground, or the position where the sky appears, there's your apparent, in the definition, appears to meet the ground. So saying the apparent position where the sky meets the ground, or the apparent position where the sky apparently meets the ground, is totally redundant! You stupid bitch! Do you hear me?
Yelling doesn't make you right.
Doesn't make you understand. That's what it doesn't make you do. You're dumb. You're dumb. It doesn't matter how many times I tell you. It doesn't matter how many times I tell you. You're using a redundant term to give you 2 horizons, and we only have one. You using this extra redundant word won't give us 2 horizons. Now, you've said the one that he showed looming is beyond where the geometric one would be. That's 2, and we've only got 1. Your second one utilises a redundant term. I'm sick of telling you.
Well, that's just authoritarianism. Just because you say something doesn't make it true.
It's part of the definition. The apparent position where the sky meets the ground, or the position where the sky appears to meet the ground. So if I say the apparent position where the sky appears to meet the ground, I've got redundancy in there. It's already apparent. It's not authoritarianism. It's a fact. You're just dumb.
Yelling doesn't make you more
Oh, that's
right.
the same shit rebuttal. You can fuck right off now. I'm sick of you. That's the same shit rebuttal. Yelling the fact that it's part of the definition, and you saying, oh, well, yelling it doesn't make it real. Yeah, it's part of the smegging definition. I say it till I'm blue in the face. To all of you retards. Hi, retards. My name's Nathan Oakley, and I'm here to tell you that apparent horizon is redundant. All horizons, by definition, are apparent, because it's the apparent position where the sky meets the ground, or the position where the sky appears, there's your apparent, to meet the ground. So you don't need an extra apparent in there, you bunch of morons. Giving you an extra horizon by using redundancy. That's all she's doing, and she thinks that, what, telling me off for shouting at her when I've told her in excess of 60 times that it's redundant? No, it's just infuriating, because the people we're dealing with are thick. Brenda's stupid. Doesn't matter how many times I tell her that it's redundant, she'll still come here and criticise my tone.
She's gone now, though, Nathan, right?
Yeah, I'll serve her to do. I'm sick of her.
Let's bring this back down to a common level for a minute. I was doing some research on high school kids, further education kids, that means going to college, and university kids that are learning undergrad studies in physics. And I learned that gravity, they don't teach gravity as a conceptual bending of space-time until they get to degree level. And even then, if you think about the numbers, every school in England has high school leavers, that half of which go on to further education, the other half go into some form of work or unemployed. And then of them people that go to college for further education, some of them go back to university and do other things, but the majority of them go and get a job. But the ones that go to university, only the ones that go through to physics learn about Einstein. Everybody up to that point of undergraduate study at university don't get taught Einstein, they get taught Newtonian. Well, we know that Newtonian physics or Newtonian gravitation has been superseded and replaced by Einstein. But if you only get taught that in physics at undergrad level, that means like 95, 96, 97% of the school leavers, the college leavers, most of the kids that learn stuff are not being taught that gravity is not a force. So how big of a deal is that? Well, that's kind of like telling everybody that murder isn't a crime unless you go to university where they teach you that murder is a crime. And can you imagine what the effect would be if kids weren't told or were expressly told that murder was not a crime? They'd be going around killing everybody. Or if they got told that burglary wasn't a crime, they'd be going around stealing cars or houses. It's only when they get to university level that burglary and murder get taught to them that it's a crime. Or gravity's not a force. But everybody else going through the school system believes gravity's a force. Which is why all the mongs in this topic, the retards on their side, still think gravity's force. But think about the numbers put from the numbers perspective. If kids are not being taught that gravity is not a force, they're being taught that it is a force, and the vast majority of them don't go on to university to study physics where they get taught that it's not a force, that means 99% of the whole population thinks gravity is a force, right? But if 99% of the population thought that murder wasn't a crime, and only the undergrads that went to law at university got taught that it was a crime, people would be going around killing everybody because they believed that it was not a crime. So in the context of changing it to a relative subject that you can all relate to, if everybody thought the opposite of what you know to be true because you are in that field, then that tells you the magnitude and the importance of why children being taught that gravity is a force is a problem. Because even though I don't agree with Einstein, and I am not pushing his story at all, the least he can do is be taught the current physics. Why would they be taught physics that is out of date? Wrong. What, just because the maths works out and it can explain it mathematically? Well, if it's not a force, what are they being taught and why?
I'll tell you why.
Everybody comes out thinking it's a force.
3 times, and so I'll answer. So the reason that you get told it's a force is because at a conceptual level, I remember me being a small child swinging a bucket round and thinking about gravity. Because that's how they've programmed you. Well, why doesn't all the water fly off? You keep telling me that you've got to argue against fundies that think it's a force and how wonderful it is when something that's totally non-related is useful for the fundies that think gravity is a force. Well, it's because at a childlike level, you're going to ask yourself, if we're spinning and hurtling, why isn't everything flying off? So if you've got a force that's just instantly there as a buzzword, then that solves that problem there and then. Now, if you were to say to them there and then, well, there's no force, it's not a force that gravity's providing, it's actually the bending of space-time. Well, your average Joe child isn't going to comprehend that at a level that just solves the problem of why doesn't everything fly off. Which is what you ask yourself when you're told it's spinning. Well, at least what I ask myself.
But let me paraphrase it for Adam. If I said to Adam in his field of chemistry that H2O wasn't H2O, and he was told all the way through his studies up to university level that H2O was something else, but only at university was he told that H2O is actually H2O, it fundamentally changes his thinking because everything at that point always made sense.
Go on, Adam.
That's true for chemistry, isn't it? So maybe not as obtuse as H2O not being H2O, but certainly in terms of the descriptions of atoms, electron orbitals, it goes from, it's a very similar sort of thing. It goes from a physical thing where electrons are there with no mass or physically orbiting to a probability function when you're at degree level with regards to it being almost in a cloud.
Yeah, but you started off by saying maybe not as obtuse as. Well, how obtuse is the argument for gravity? It's fundamental in the paradigm. I would say that it needs to be that obtuse to make the point.
Yeah, well, it's not as severe. That's what I'd say. But I think that's quite common. And and probably why it gets past, Tony, because it is quite common to simplify and take some of the more complex detail out, but try and hold things true. And I think the difference with gravity is at the most fundamental level, whereas when you're describing the electrons orbiting, whether it's they're physically moving on a spinny circle around, or it's the fundamentals are the same. You just going into sort of nuances of how it's there. Whereas at the gravitational level, you are fundamentally describing a very different concept. You are being taught that a magical, mystical force between masses attracts, is generated. Whereas then you go on to learn that that's actually fundamentally bunkum. So I suppose it is a much more obtuse.
But in that context, you have to ask the question, well, why are they even being taught something that's wrong in the first place? Why can't they either leave it open-ended or expressly state nothing about it because it's too complicated at that level, or tell them the truth? Tell them it's Einstein, but it is complicated. There's a lot of arithmetic. You'll get to it at degree level. Because if they leave that hole there, kids will naturally ask the question. But to tell them it's something that's fundamentally false is lying. And my view is that if you're going to defend that that's acceptable, you're actually encouraging lying, because even at that level, kids are asking what's making things move, right? We're 30, 40, 50 years old and we're asking the same question. But kids at the age of 5 or 8 or 10 are also asking that question. Why can't they be told that gravity is not a force? I don't see why lying to them is of any benefit.
Because I've just
Same
explained
reason
this. But it's a benefit to the lie.
They just don't understand. Kids just...
You know what sucks is that they'll have Einstein's and Newton's posters all over the place, but they won't throw George Mooser's poster up there with a quote saying, "We can, we do, we must consider Newtonian gravity as a force." Doesn't mean it really is one, but we don't necessarily have to work at the really is level.
You really need a really is force when you're telling a kid that the Earth spins. That's the bottom line here, Anthony. Now, where their process of programming out that nonsense at degree level is such that you won't be asking the question about why isn't the water flying off. But as far as I'm concerned, there's only one necessity to tell you that there's a force, and it's for all the reasons that they argue with you, the ones that are non-degree educated, about how we do have a force.
Yeah. Right. But I would then say, you just said the only reason to tell them there's a force is 2. But I would then say, no, actually, if it isn't a force, surely you're better off saying, well, at this level, we can't tell you that answer because it's complicated and you've got to wait to degree, rather than tell them an overt lie.
No, you can't leave somebody who's generally of a cognition that they're going to be questioning things, i.e. kids. All they do is ask questions all day. So if you haven't got an answer for them that makes sense, they'll keep asking the same question. Now, that's the last thing you need when you've got somebody that you're trying to tell you're on a spinning ball. You just want them to accept it and accept it quickly. So the quicker you can get that information programmed into them and alleviate any concerns that it might not work, the better. You're not going to leave them with an open-ended, well, we haven't got a force to solve your problem, little child, when you ask me why stuff isn't flying off. We've just got a bending of a conceptual medium known as space. Yeah, that ain't going to fly. You just got to say, yeah, the gravity force holds it all on. And the boy or the girl goes, really? Thank you. Now I can get on playing with my ball.
I asked that question until I was told that this is what's in the textbook. I can't really tell you any much more, and you need to know it for the test.
Yeah.
I asked a similar question. I was told, look, I just got to teach it. I don't even believe it.
Yeah. But can you imagine, though, if we were told when we were kids, rather than them 2 answers that you've just identified, what if we were actually told, listen, this stuff's complicated and no one really gets it, but we're told that this is it, but if you really want to know the current position in physics, you've got to go and learn it at degree level. I mean, that's just going to make kids ask more questions, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a better position than telling them lies.
No, not for the people who want you to think that you're on a spinning ball. That's the worst possible position, leaving them wanting to ask more questions. Like I just said, that's the opposite of what they need.
So what you're saying is if you want children to think that they're on a spinning ball, it's okay to lie to them in school.
Yes, that would be their or whoever the education board is, their justification for it. Yes.
Tony, if I was trying to start a cult, I wouldn't start out by saying, here's what this cult believes. I know it's a little bit shaky and contradictory in points, and some of it's just completely made up, but hopefully you might get it down the line. You're not going to get many people on board, are you? You've got to preach it as if you believe it.
Exactly. It's got to be convincing from the outset. Now, once people are indoctrinated thoroughly enough for that not to be a concern anymore, then you can tell them about the overarching explanation, because cognitively people are reasonably, if they're at degree level, they're reasonably smart. And therefore, if a problem comes up where 8-year-old boy challenges degree-educated man or woman and says, well, how does all the water stay on? They'll get a George Musa answer. They can rely on someone at that level of education to give a George Musa answer and cognitively spin it however it needs to be spun. Now, someone eloquent like George Musa will give the quote that Chocolate just gave us and say, well, you have to consider it a force even though at the really is level it isn't. Now, that's a nice, eloquent bit of doublespeak that's going to confuse an 8-year-old or anybody a bit more stupid than the person who's at degree level. So Adam, for example, goes through the whole process of learning about how Cavendish doesn't really work and then goes on to degree level and they say, yeah, that's a load of old bollocks. But by then, he's smart enough to cognitively wire himself however is necessary to keep his paradigm, because it's his paradigm now, it's hardwired. He's going to keep that paradigm alive because it's part of the programming to keep itself perpetuating. Now, I'm trying to simultaneously say that there's a they that want to keep this in the education system. The they is just us, individuals, autonomous people that can make these decisions and process out this cognition into the education system. But if you got that guy who's done exactly that, basically lied because it's a problem they don't want solving and don't want to spend 5 lessons with an 8-year-old, he's just going to put it in there because cognitively it's justified. Now, if you got hold of him and started, you tied him to a chair and said, why are you indoctrinating the children with this lie? Or you drug him through the court processes or whatever, he'd probably crap his pants. He wouldn't have a clue what was going on. He'd just be like, that made sense to me. I'm not dealing with the degree level education at this level. The books say we tell him about bloody Newtonian forces. So that's what I'm doing. What's your problem? It's just there in the books now. So in other words, there's no boogeyman. Hold on, I want to make my point. My point is there's not necessarily a boogeyman. We're all guilty of doing this ourselves. And the guy you get to the end of this chain, if you were to search down the liar in this instance, as you're labelling him, he might not be a liar. It might just be Joe Normal who's just carrying on perpetuating the nonsense and squaring the circle in his own mind as he does so.
Okay, so let's bring it down to the real world in this topic. We do have a teacher who does know that there are problems with the current heliocentric model, and he knows that gravity is not a force in the name of conspiracy cats. He is lying to children. He's telling children that gravity is a force, right?
No, he's the guy. He is that guy. He's the guy I've just described. So he's a great example. He is. He's a great example. He's cognitively squared the circle. Now, the fact that it's not quite square and that causes him cognitive pain is neither here nor there. He's made an attempt to square that circle in his own cognition. We know because he's still a globe head. So therefore, there's some justifiable cognition he's got. We're never going to be privy to it, but it must be the case, overtly the case, publicly the case.
He knows that gravity is defined by Einstein. Right,
crystal ball time. You're divining his thoughts, are you?
No, he knows because we've told him time and time again. He knows
this is the problem, Nathan. I don't quite get your position. If we know right now,
hold on, 3 people, one at a time. Hold on, Spurs and Darwin. Let Anthony finish his thought. Then Spurs, then Arwin. Go ahead, Anthony.
Conspiracy Cats has been told 100 times that gravity is not a force, and the current authority for it not being a force is Albert Einstein. And we know how it's defined and we know what causes it. So when you're saying that the average Joe Blogs physics teacher might not be actually lying, okay, I could kind of agree with that. They're just telling the kids what they get told to tell them. But not the same with Conspiracy Cats. He absolutely knows that there's a contradiction because he's in the topic. So he can't get the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, fine. I'll read out Light Energy's comment. You can comment on that, Anthony, then we'll go to Spurs. Light Energy, thank you very much for the super chat. She says, true for some. Quote, we never free a mind once it's reached a certain age. It's dangerous. The mind has trouble letting go. End quote. Morpheus from The Matrix. Any comment, Anthony?
I agree.
Right, well, he's just
Can
a
you imagine
mind.
if everybody out of high school, just high school, not college or university, imagine if everybody came out of high school not knowing what gravity, not knowing why Newton's apple fell from the tree, right? They all come out of high school thinking that they understand it because gravity is a force. But the reality is it's not a force. But if they came out of school not knowing that it was, if they came out of school knowing that it wasn't a force, I think that the world would be a much better place because we'd be all genuinely interested for what's making these things move.
Maybe.
I think it's crazy. Well, go on, Spurs.
Maybe.
Is it up to their level?
Not you yet, Arwin. Go ahead, Spurs.
Well, it's just kind of to follow up a little bit. You saw it there in America, Nathan Thompson go to the school, and he was told, well, that's not the right approach. So as he's shouting to the children, you've been lied to. Children hear that. They go and ask the teacher, have we been lied to? The teacher says, no, of course you haven't been lied to. He's talking nonsense. So then now we know actively here and now that we have information on the contrary. So what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to just sit back, relax, and just allow the system to lie to the children and just, come online and just reveal to a few people who happen to come online and tell them, yeah, you've been lied to, or the Earth is not a globe, or these people don't have proof of a globe?
Okay.
That's the point here when I was asking about...
Sure. I don't want it 4 more times.
Here just for...
Okay. I don't need it 4 more times. I heard it in the pre-show as well. And I'll give you the same answer I gave you in the pre-show. So we're currently going to their rhetoric and quoting their magicians on their rhetoric. We've had a quote from George Musa. Chocolate read it out a moment ago. Probably knows it off by heart by now. But that quote is their priest undoing their magic of gravity and overtly stating that he's telling you how to think while simultaneously telling you it's nonsense. Now, step back for a second. You're saying he's lying. Well, why are we quoting him then? He's not lying, he's telling you straight. George Musa's being honest. Now, gravity's not a force. But you, the person I'm talking to and communicating this with, you can, therefore probably will, think of it, telling you what to think, as a force. Now, it's up to you. You have a choice when you hear that statement, which is factually accurate. It's not a force, but you can think of it as one. I'll make another factually accurate statement. Cars are not roast chickens, but you can think of them as roast chickens. Now, I'm telling the audience that if they want to think of their car as a roast chicken, they can. But it's implied that it's nonsensical.
Sometimes I think...
Let me make my point, Spurs. My point is that...
Get your point.
You as an individual have a choice when you hear a statement like that to either say and accept, I can think the way you tell me to, in spite of your declaration that it's not a force, I will think of it as one. Or you can say, well, I don't have to think of it as a force then. I've got a choice in this matter. It's not actually a force, you say. I'll pay more attention to your first statement, rather than the one where you tell me what to think. So he's not lying. But we are going to go after Mr. Musa like he's a bloody boogeyman? No! They're all telling us overtly where it's bullshit, where the horizon being physical is conceptual. They tell you it's a thought experiment. So what are you going to do, pin him to a chair and tell him he's lied? No, he's not. But it's up to you whether or not you accept the philosophy and reify it into a sphere-shaped Earth you're standing on, or just take it as a philosophy and utilise it as a way of thinking about the world and understanding the stars better. But when you take it further and you do Mick West's trick and come up with curve calculators and publish them because he's seen them part of the model, yeah, you're perpetuating the bullshit because you're trying to square your own circle. But he's one man, not a boogeyman. Probably genuinely believes all his own bullshit, like most con men do.
I forget my point.
Yeah, make your point then. Arwin's got his comments.
Yeah, I'm trying to say that what you're comparing here is what George is saying. Okay, fine, it's not a force, but it has implications. He's not saying, okay, it's not a force, there's no ball, there's no space, there's no cosmos. Just because he says there's no force, anyone can go and speak to George and say, well, what did you mean by that, George? You've seen Rumpus, you've seen Fight the Fly. Well, what do you mean by that? Oh, yeah, well, we know it's a force, it's to do with Einstein, blah, 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 rhetoric. Again, you can accept it or not accept it, but children will base their lives off what they've been told. This is why I asked you earlier on, is this a mission for the person of who just says, well, that I'll get a pat on the back because well done, you've told me it's not a globe, great. Or are we trying to stop the people like George who say, okay, gravity is not a force, but this is the explanation for why we're still on a ball, why it's still in space, and all the implications are going after it. You're just comparing something like, oh, you can believe a car is this and that and the other. That has no implications. If anyone can believe whatever they want, can't they?
But you're in charge of your kids. You're responsible.
Belief,
okay, you're responsible for your kids. I'm responsible for my kids. Now, I choose not to let them watch television because I think it's poison. So, I've got control over that. Do they watch TV? No, because I say so. Well, things like that are within your control. Now, if you choose to send your kids to a public school, or in our case, in the UK state school, then that's your choice also. Well, if you choose to allow them to be indoctrinated and then complain to the person that's teaching them, that's also your choice. But you make that choice as an individual. And if you have people you are responsible for, in this case children, then you are ultimately the person who will make those choices. Now, you can pass it off and delegate it. I'm nearly there, Spurs. God's sake. You can pass it off and delegate it to Big Daddy government and complain how he deals with it. Or you can deal with it yourself. That's what I'm saying. This is more about introspection. And one more comment, then Arwen's patiently waiting. Go ahead.
Yeah, the point is what you're suggesting is a nice little utopia. But we have a system. We have a system that's broken. Now, if we can fix that system or try to fix the system, I shouldn't have to draw children out of a system where they're supposed to help you. So if there's an idea or a model, I've got an echo here somewhere, but if there's a model that's implemented to help children, generations in the future, but this one right now is broken, and you're saying, well, instead of fixing this system, just take them out and do your own thing. Well, I don't see why, because, we had the same thing. We're still where we are now today, still through the system we had. So why should the future miss out on that? All the future children are going to have is miss out on it is the lies that we had to put up with. Still works.
Okay.
People still go to work.
Spurs, I get it.
People still drive cars.
Spurs, I get it. You see yourself as a flat Earth evangelist. I don't see myself as a flat Earth evangelist. I see this channel as educating people. When we talk about their rhetoric and George Musa quotes, these are mainstream things that we're discussing. Now, the fact that these mainstream things that are part of their rhetoric expose how we have reified these models, Spurs. So they tell you explicitly from day one that it's a model. It's called the heliocentric model. So are they lying to you when you chose to reify that model, Spurs? You chose to. Now, Spurs, come on. Stop interrupting me. Spurs, you're really winding me up. I'm trying to get to the end of my point each time.
I don't have any more questions because it was too long.
Yeah, but you're missing my point in this, though. I'm not arguing that. I'm saying that if people think you can build models, if there is an honest way to build a model, well, then do it. You're saying, well, don't build a model at all because it's reifying. And I'm saying that there are people who think, well, there is a way to build a model that will represent reality. So I'm saying, well, if that's honest and true and it's possible,
you're not listening to me, Spurs. Spurs, stop. You're not listening to what I'm saying. The word model is a thing that you can create. There's all sorts of different models. Look up the definition of model. And you're saying if I can create a model that's true, no, that's reification. And my point was that if you tell children explicitly from the start, which they do, that it is a model, and we, the people, choose to reify it and justify it and defend it, then that's on us. Now, if we were to go to the people who might be deemed the boogeyman and said to them, why have you lied to us? If they were so kind, they might point out the lines of text that say, no, Horizon's a thought experiment. If you physically reify it, that's your problem. But you're after the boogeyman and feeling like you need to be a flat earth evangelist. I'm saying no, read between the lines in some instances, and in other instances, read the text itself, where it tells you the horizon as a physical entity is a thought experiment that will have geometric consideration. Well, that's not in any way unclear, but we've chosen to reify it, in my opinion.
Nathan, I think that would apply against adults, but I don't think you can apply that standard against children, because children don't look at the philosophy. They look at the message that's being portrayed to them on face value, which is why they always say why. You can't say to kids, "This is just a model, and therefore don't take it as gospel." If the teacher's telling them that gravity is a force, they're going to believe it.
Yeah, I tried to say that, but I got interrupted by Spurs.
Exactly.
I was going to say that us as individuals, in this instance a teacher, if I was that individual, can put their own spin on it if they've already reified the model. Now, no, there's not going to be any moderation for that teacher to stop them reifying it in the same way that Conspiracy Cats has done exactly that. But it doesn't change the fact that while you might have somebody pushing it along, and that seems to have spun out of all control to the point where everybody's reifying it without even realising it, isn't on anybody when they've made it explicitly clear from the outset that this is a model. Now you're saying, well, children are getting overtly lied to now. Yeah, it's spun out of all control, Anthony, to the point where somebody who I'm describing as that guy that just says, oh, well, it's in the books as being a force. It's much easier to just not have further questions from the kids. Well, yeah, that guy does need that pointing out to him. He's not a boogeyman, but it's spun out of all control. It's spun out of all control because, my God, why am I constantly getting fucking interrupted, Spurs? Shut up! Why are you doing a Brenda? I'm in the middle of a thought. Yeah, it's spun out of all control. We as individuals have reified the living crap out of a model. Yeah, now that needs addressing. But it doesn't mean that we've been lied to. It means that we've reified our models that are made clear to be models in the education structure anyway.
Right. My point of that is not to make a model, it's having an honest world. You're saying, no, the system's broken, they're not giving us the truth, so I'm going to take my children out of that system and do my own thing. I'm saying, if it's possible to have a world where things can be honest, if the model can't be built, then don't build it. If you can, then build it. If you can make a measurement, then measure it. If you can't, then don't. I'm simply saying we shouldn't have to withdraw from something where things can work. It's possible to have schools where children are taught and they can have education. This is possible. So I'm saying that if right now we know, like Anthony's saying, gravity's on the force, they're teaching the wrong things in these buildings, and then we have the opportunity to do something about it, well, we should do something about it. That's what I'm simply saying.
Yeah, can I please enter? Can I
go
enter
ahead,
the
Owen,
conversation
go ahead.
now after
Yes.
45 minutes?
Yes.
Maybe? Thank you. So, yeah, I went through school. It was a pretty good school. It was a school that prided itself on having a lot of very smart people on it, right? So, yeah, I was taught in physics that gravity is a force. We even had this weirdo from NASA, supposedly, or some related figure that showed us the freaking magnet trick and then claimed that, yeah, that was gravity. And I even said, but is it a magnet? Can I touch it? No. So after that point, yeah, I realized most of my fellow students were good at stuff, we had some intelligence. They really didn't care about physics at all. These people are fine with learning about gravity, about that system, then getting it right, getting the right mark, and moving on and not giving a shit about it anymore. But those that are actually interested in physics, like myself, then go to the teacher like, yeah, what else is there? Is there something more? Well, guess what? That teacher tried to explain to me, yeah, the thing about gravity and Newtonian gravity, it's actually not real. It's a kind of outdated. We work with Einstein now. It's very complex. We don't know if you're up to it.
We got that.
With this in university. They do tell you when you ask. They do tell you when you ask. It's just they don't want to saddle up those highly conceptual mechanics, which is very tough for the average person, with students just trying to get through school, not necessarily caring about physics. That's why.
Right, shout out to, is it Chico2J? The system isn't broken. It isn't designed for us. Thank you very much for the super chat. And also a shout out to MacGyver Institute of Ninja Technology, who says Horizon Prayer, show comments 3-9, ballers hate it. Okay.
Hey, Nathan, can I give a thought on this?
Yeah.
All right, great. First, Anthony, I hope you're listening. Nathan just got through saying that he turned off the TV in his house. He's setting some guidelines for his children. He's taking responsibility to control the lies so that they don't come in. What more do you want him to do? He's got power over his family. Does he have power over 5 of his next door neighbors? I doubt it.
So in one
I
breath,
have to
10th man,
hang
you've
on.
heard Nathan say
No,
they're
don't
not lying
interrupt
to
me,
us, and then
Spurs,
you're
please
saying
stop
it's been
interrupting
not because they're
people.
lying to us.
Spurs, please stop interrupting people.
Spurs, I'm not done.
You do not
You'll
want a
have your
response.
chance.
Or...
Yeah, you'll get your response. Trust me. So I was in the same boat. I saw what happened. Like Nathan was seeing is what's happening. Of course, my kids have kids. I'm a grandfather now, so I'm a little further down the road. So I turned off the TV in my house. I did the exact same thing as Nathan. I decided no public schools for my kids, and it was going to be over $600 a month to make that happen. So I started another business because I wanted to make sure my kids were not lied to. Do I need to go start a second and third and fourth business for my neighbor's kids? Or is that guy's responsibility? Now, I told them when people said, why are you sending your kids to public school? Isn't that hard, the obligation and the cost? I go, it's terribly hard. The obligation is very serious, but I care about their minds. It's our responsibility.
Right, can I
with our
respond to this,
kids.
10th man?
Yeah, when I'm done.
Yeah, yeah. So again,
when I'm
this
done.
mentality.
He's
that
not
you have-
done, Spurs. Listen to what's being said. He said, yes, you can respond when I'm done.
Oh, I thought you said, okay, sorry. I thought you said yes.
No, I'll tell you when I'm done. So, when you're looking at what's happening through the school system as a parent, and they're letting drag queens and all kinds of people come in and mess with your kid's mind, you as a parent are responsible to do something. You're not going to change from coast to coast, speaking of America, all the national education systems. You, one person, you're going to change your family. You're going to affect another family because they see how well your kids are growing up and why you did it. And it's going to be one bite at a time. That's how you do it. It's impossible to overthrow this thing the way you're talking about it. But it's not impossible. You do one family at a time, one parents or a set of parents who love their kids, who will be willing to do the things that Nathan's doing for his kids. Okay, I'm done. Go.
Okay, again, with respect, 10th man, I'm going to have to disagree and say that you don't have any idea what you're talking about here. Adam got arrested. Nathan Thompson got arrested. We are at war. It seems like you guys don't seem to recognize what the stakes are. Yeah, you can go into your own little bubble and hide away in the countryside and say, oh, I don't want to be a part of this society. I don't want to be part of this system while everyone else is suffering. But for the rest of us, for most of us, this is passionate. This is something that we feel that we're duty bound to do. We're called to do this. Now, when you say, oh, there's no lie, they're not lying to us. And in the same breath, you're saying, well, I'm turning my television off because they're lying to us. This is the double speak.
Why are you putting
again, I know how
words
to
in my
say this
mouth?
respectfully and politely, but this
Why
is
are you
the
putting words in
problem
my
that we're
mouth?
having here.
Hold on.
Are we being lied to? If we are being lied to, do we hide away? If we're at war, if someone's taken over your country and you're at war, do you just run away to the countryside, get on the train and say,
Okay,
oh,
we don't need the
after you,
analogies. We don't need the analogies. We don't need them. Right, Anthony, you there?
Let me answer.
Before you do answer him, let's get some definitions. Hold on. Anthony, are you there, please? Please be there.
Yes, I'm here.
What's the definition of a lie in law, please?
You need two elements. You need a false statement of fact. You need the intention to deceive.
Intention to deceive. So, Spurs.
Yeah.
Let's have some examples. So I turn off the TV.
Any way you want to dress it up, deception,
Spurs.
a lie, a fraud, a con, however you want to call it, right? We're going to use the colloquial term, we call it a lie. But there's been a deception, we've been deceived, we've been hoodwinked, okay? So the point is, if that's true, and we've all been hoodwinked by this lie, then we need to do something about it. Now, obviously, we can
Spurs,
hide away.
You're getting way ahead of yourself, Spurs. Listen to what you're saying. That would be the people, and I'm going to say us as individuals, have been, by your vernacular, deceived. So, you then extrapolate that out into a third party that's lied to us. And that's wrong. You've been deceived, Spurs. Now, are you still deceived? Good for you. You're not deceived anymore. Now, the TV can deceive my children if I let it deceive them. Now, is there an overt liar behind that? No, not necessarily. because the intention may not be there at all. It might be completely unwitting. But that doesn't mean that what they're showing on the gobble box isn't nonsense. It is. So I choose to not expose my kids to that because I don't want them to be deceived. Like I was deceived. And that's on me.
Mm-hmm. Can I just ask, what do you think the street activism is all about? Why do you think the people do that? Why do you think they go out
hold on, just one second, Adam.
Drive miles, spend days and days and weeks. Why do you think they do that?
Didn't hear you because Adam was trying to speak. Go ahead, just get your point out, Spurs, and then I'll go to Adam. One more time, Spurs. Whenever I want him to go quickly, get long pauses and endless diatribes. Got 4 minutes left, Spurs. Hopefully we can get a concise point out here, then I'm hoping to go to Adam. Dead air isn't what I want.
Go to Adam. I just wanted to know why you think people do activism. Why you think people are active. Why you think people spend hours.
I'll tell you because they're embarrassed. Because they were deceived. And their embarrassment leads them to let everybody else around them think that they're being deceived by someone else, rather than admitting to the fact that they've been deceived. It's a pride thing. There you go, there's my opinion. It won't win me any fans whatsoever. Go ahead, Adam.
No, that's fine. I'm just asking. That's fine. Go ahead, Adam. That's what I was just asking. Yeah.
I think that's probably part of it. Yeah, the frustration of being deceived. I think what motivates people to carry on is to try and make other people aware of it, and that's important. But I think that's wholly different to what I think the issue is getting kind of slightly conflated with, which is your responsibilities as a parent. I didn't send my kids to private school. I could have done. I don't think there's that much difference. What's important to me is to engage with my kids and discuss the rhetoric as they bring it in. I can't, as they get older, you can't hide the world from them. So for me, it's important to be able to discuss the nonsense with them and get them through it 30 years quicker than I got through it. That's the only fight I can definitely win. Now, going out there and doing activism stuff that you end up getting rumbled in Rome or whatever is for me rewarding. I'm not going out there preaching any new model to anyone. I'm just out there trying to wake people up to the lie that deceived me for so long. Is it embarrassment that motivates me? Probably not. Maybe the first time
I don't think so,
anger
no.
and frustration at it, but that's how I'd say. But I think the two issues are very different, and one's about your responsibility, which you can either decide to or not engage in with society, and the other one is a full-on responsibility you have to engage in with regards to your children if you had any intention of bringing people into this world for a better purpose.
Right, I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about this in the after show, so stay tuned if you're watching on the Nathan Oakley channel. In the meantime, I'm going to shout out a couple of super chats. So shout out to Joe Mama for smashing the super chat without even saying anything. Just thank you very much for supporting me. Also shout out to Retro Bill, who says, if Wednesday is known as Hump Day, why isn't Tuesday and Thursday obscured at a distance of Sunday? Well, that's a very good question. Thank you very much indeed for your support, Retro Bill. Once again, I'll say if you are watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching live on Nathan Oakley 1980, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Also, of course, a massive thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making this live show possible. Stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
We're still here, yeah? We're still on?
Yeah, we're just waiting for Nathan to come back on, and then I'm going to answer you, Spurs.
Go ahead, 10th man.
All right. So, Spurs, don't conflate, because you did that when you were responding to what I said. But I just want to give you an update as to what happened. So I took the responsibility of reins as a parent, thought what I was doing was the best. With my wife, we agreed that this was the best move. And like Adam, we would have discussions with our kids all through their adolescence. Now, they're all flat earthers now. They all can think logically. They all understand the world is a dangerous and real place. So I didn't hold them back from seeing what was happening. But in those early years, I was there for them with my wife to help them understand what's going on. Now they're on their own. They're making decisions. They have their own families. And you know what? I had to do what I had to do because I felt the conviction to take care of my kids properly with truth. Now, what they do with that and what they do the rest of their life is beyond me, right? Because I can't control that. But you must take responsibility for the people that you have, say, some kind of influence on. To go out and try to change a whole thing at one time without the needed foot soldiers in place is an impossible task. So as more people come onto this truth, then you can have a following and from different voices, different points of view. Then you can cause a lot of change because you're going to have the support.
Everyone, just let Spurs respond to that. Go ahead, Spurs.
I mean, this is going to take a while, so no, just let someone else go ahead because, I mean, this needs to be discussed. The idea I'm thinking is that, like I said, the paths are different. Your idea seems to be to withdraw from society and do your own thing. And for me, we grew up in a society where things were...
Spurs is getting annoyed. Spurs, he's getting annoyed because you've just... That's not what he's...
did not withdraw from society. Don't put words in my mouth.
I didn't interrupt the word you said. What are you on about?
No, don't.
Shut him up.
So look.
Shut that mouth. What a jerk. Don't put words in my mouth.
All right, nobody...
I did not withdraw from society. I stood next to it with
No, the royal you, not you as in specifically you, but people who... I'm talking about the two paths that people
you've got to be
taking.
specific. You've got to be specific. I end up in endless long
Yeah,
sentences.
not him specifically. I'm talking about the two paths here. There seems to be people on the paths of, well, I'm going to withdraw, and it's not just here. We've heard this from, like, Dow. Dow will say, oh, I'm going to do my own thing. We're going to go our own way. So what I'm thinking is that if we have a society where people are doing their own thing, going their own way, there'll be no order. There'll be no rulings of any kind. And it doesn't need to be that way. If we have a system where we
Spurs. Let somebody respond to you rather than repeating it 3 times.
Wait a second. Don't blame all of us. It's just 10th who's withdrawing. Okay, so just leave that on him.
Yeah, just don't stereotype us with 10th. He's the only one who's withdrawing
Well, that's
from
what I was
society.
saying. Exactly, John. Not all of us are on that path of withdrawing. And that's why I'm speaking up about it. I'm saying, well, I don't feel we need to step back when there's a system that's causing us the problem. We should go to them.
We agree, Spurs. Don't step back like 10th man has.
I know what Kiwi's doing. Kiwi's trying to trigger me. I know what he's doing.
I love it. Nobody's withdrawing from society here, Spurs. I don't know what you're babbling about, to be perfectly honest.
The system that we grew up in, we believed was working. We found out it was broken. So we need to get back to that system where it can work. Is it possible? Why can't, we need to look at these things.
Let's get specific again, Spurs. Spurs. No, an endless diatribe. What system and what is broken?
Well, we've got the education. It starts from the education, right? Then it obviously goes into the policing, medical, all of these things, all these different areas seem to be broken, corrupt at some level. So obviously, instead of withdrawing from that, if we recognize
I don't need it 5 more times at the end of your simple answer. So according to you, it's the education, the medical, and what was the other one?
We could say I was going to say the policing, but how would you describe that?
Fine. So somehow we've got the emergency services and the education system. No problem. Can I add firemen to it or not?
I got to get.
Hold on. Can I add firemen to the list?
I'm sure there's corruption. Yeah, I'm sure there are paid firemen who refuse to go to burning buildings, right?
So we've got the emergency services. That's much easier to say. and the education system. So what's broken?
There's corruption within, and you need to try to root it out as much as you can, right?
Give me a specific example of corruption in the education system, please.
Well, corruption in education would be that there's a party political viewpoint that's being put forward where it cannot be challenged by anyone else. If you try to go
That's
from
wrong.
within, you're
That's
shut
incorrect.
down. If you try
Stop.
to go from without,
Stop.
you're shut down.
Stop! That's wrong. Yes, it can be challenged. Anthony's in the process of challenging
So
it.
why are we still debating?
Spurs! Spurs! Right, just because I've said you're wrong doesn't mean you have to babble through every fucking word I say. Right. Yes, it can be... Is he talking through me immediately? Yes, it can be challenged. Yes, it is being challenged. Yes, the system has processes that you can employ to challenge it. You are wrong. Next. What else is broken according to you?
His understanding of the Black Swan's broken.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no. That sounds like such a
Yep.
disappointment.
Yep. I listened to a hangout yesterday with friggin' retard ballers talking. I don't know how many times they said refraction and the horizon's refraction without response. What's up with that?
Sorry, I just went to get a quick drink. Can I just respond quickly?
Okay.
I think the problem is, Nate.
Well,
is
no,
that
it's okay.
now-
That's okay. Everyone needs to
I
take a
think
breath, me included.
I think the problem is, Nathan, is that flat earthers have
That was
been
a quick
looking
drink.
for that one.
Bloody hell.
What?
You got a coffee machine next to you or something?
yeah, I just had to get a quick drink. Sorry. But we've been looking for that one piece of gold, right?
This is
that
it.
one piece. I've had Jem Panda all year. Oh, when a flat earth is ever going to produce that one piece of evidence that will take you forward? We have
This is
that
it.
now.
Yeah, this
and
is it. This is it.
seems-
This is it.
He's
Black
a
Swan.
retard, Gem Panda. Why are you even talking to that knucklehead?
Because I'm saying that the ball earthers seem to look up to him, and the idea is that if the flat earthers have a piece of evidence or
Mr.
strong
Burns humping
piece of
natural
evidence, which we have
experiments.
now-
Yeah. When are they making
Yes,
his buffs?
so- Yeah. So Nathan, do you understand what I'm getting at? We have this piece of evidence now. Why you're saying we're doing something about it now? Shouldn't we be banging down the doors of the education system, saying demanding that they look at this? What's your approach?
You've just hand waved what I've just said. So I've just explained that there is a process that you can go through. If you want to work within the confines of the matrix, because you expect the education system to do a better job with your children, because you're of the deluded impression that the education system's for children. Well, it's not. But if you looked into the education system a little bit further, you might find that out. And then you probably wouldn't want to put your kids in it. But there we go, that's just my attitude. But you'd also find out on a political level that there are roots in, and you can challenge it. But instead you're saying it's corrupt, and there is no way of challenging it. You're just wrong. You're just going to the playground gates. I'm sorry, Nathan Thompson. I'm going to have to throw you under the bus in this example. Going to the playground gates and screaming that you're being lied to is not the way to do it. Sorry. Don't have to like it. That's their system. Theirs, not yours.
But then you'll be quick to say, Nathan, well, I'm going to hide away from society and then tell people that they're doing this, and this, and this, and wrong.
Right, Spurs.
But you're not actually saying anything about what they should or shouldn't do. I mean, you've seen Anthony try to go through the right process. Nothing's happening. What is the right way to go about it? I mean, you're saying there are one.
Another baseless assertion.
Well, I mean, again, people want guidance. People have given their responsibility to the government, and they still have. There are globe earthers now who still don't know what to do. They're asking for models, they're asking for measurements, they're asking for all these things. They're still lost. And unless we do something, they'll just go back to the government. They'll be told another lie.
Oh, I see. I get it. Let me try and break this down. So you're saying the people are reaching out to you, the flat earth evangelists, for answers, and you don't have them. So you want to defer to Big Daddy government to change his ways. That's what's happening here.
Honestly, yeah, we want the government to be transparent, right?
Can't believe
They're
you
supposed
agreed.
to be there for us, right? Why shouldn't they
So
listen to what the people have to
why don't
say?
we do this, Spurs? Why don't we have people change their own minds, and then maybe the system will change by default?
Exactly.
Then you'll have enough
The reason
people
why is because
that
we don't
are
have
of
a
the right
billion-dollar
mindset to do
industry
such
that
a
can
thing.
use propaganda to indoctrinate millions and billions of people. That's why, Tuck. It's not like that. It's psychological. It's not about evidence. It's never been about evidence. You could show someone a picture of the flat Earth, a video, they'll say, no, it's still a ball. Because it's psychological. It's all in their head.
Because they've been deceived. But they were deceived. That individual's deceived. So if you're going to try and work on that person, you need to work on that individual. And rather than telling them about how Big Daddy Government has lied to them, explain to them as an individual how they have been deceived and continue to deceive themselves. And when they try and go outwardly and point out to somebody who's deceived them, that's where I'm saying the pride thing comes in. To elaborate on what I said on the live show, I'm not saying that people go out and do activism because they're genuinely embarrassed about it. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the way you're deferring things from your responsibility onto a third party, in this case the government's responsibility, is a shirking of your responsibility. Now that's an aside point. This is what Adam was trying to break down, the distinguishment between the two. There's a responsibility which is on a completely subject matter specific thing to your kids and your education. Now at a different level, there's people who will run after the boogeyman because they don't want to accept that it's their fault that they have been deceived. It's much easier to point your finger at the point that at the very least you've accepted that you're not privy to the correct information, or what you think wasn't quite right. That takes a certain degree of humility. But some people stop there and go, well, who has deceived me? It's like, no, you allowed yourself to be deceived. And there are plenty of examples.
I might be saying some very unpopular things again, Nathan, but I think you are afraid of a revolution. Because there's no other way that we're going to be able to overturn this lie, this huge, massive
that's
lie,
freaking
without
brilliant,
some kind of revolution.
man.
Now, if we have people hiding off and saying, well, I'm not going to be a part of this, and not facing this boogeyman like you're trying to describe, well, then what's left? It's going to get worse. They'll get more powerful. They'll see how we're operating. They'll hear our arguments.
Get specific. Who's they?
They'll
think,
I
hate these words.
Hold on. Let me last point. So because it's psychological, they're listening to us right now. They're listening to you.
Who's they? You've used it 4 times. I've asked him to clarify who they is, and he said it 4 times.
I will. After I make my point, I'll clarify all of that.
After
they.
There are who the hell are they?
White coats, people. Oh, for goodness.
You won't specifically clarify who you're talking about.
All right. So there was an experiment where they had 6 or 7 people, and they got. I can't remember. I'll find the video, and then we can find out who they are. And then we can be more specific. But there was a video, for example, where they had 6 or 7 people. They drew 4 lines. One of them was the same as the other lines. And then they got the other 6 to say, the other one was not the same size. And then one guy was like, well, that's not right. So basically, it was a peer pressure experiment. So the people who designed that experiment, we're talking about those people who deal with psychology. So what's happening here is that it's a psychological thing that's going on. It's nothing to do with the fact, like I said, practical, showing someone a demonstration. So the idea is, I think you're worried about the revolution here, is that there has to be a huge overturn. I mean, you're saying we should do this.
Hold on. Stop. Overturning what? The people who make this psychological quasi-experiment. They need overturning, do they? That's the only they you've given us so far. And now we're elaborating that out into overturning what?
So you're denying the conspiracy.
Why do you give these sweeping generalized statements as questions after me specifically asking you about who they are? You giving me an example about people doing a psychological test or a psychological example with people, not an experiment for certain. And I say, so why have you now elaborated out to overturning something? Who are the they? Are we going to overturn these people doing this psychology? We're going to overturn psychologists? Is that your point here? Because if not, it's so convoluted and disjointed, it makes no sense, Spurs. I'm trying to get to who you think we need to overturn after having an example about psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Who's they?
So what's happened? There's been an operation. We need an operation, right? There's been an operation to indoctrinate people. So obviously to overturn that operation, you can't just force people into this thinking, can they? Because they've been indoctrinated. So by shouting at people, demanding that they become flat earthers, demanding that they deny the globe, demanding that they accept the evidence for whatever we have, it's not going to work.
I don't do that.
I'm not saying
Who does that?
I'm saying in general.
First,
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that
the only way
Generalizations.
the only way you're gonna get anything to change is to get people to change their own minds. You show people the truth, right? And they change their own minds. And when enough people have done that, then something might happen. The system might change just because it has to, right?
Problem with that, Chocolate, there's more selfish people in the world. So even if you're telling the truth, you could tell a ball earther. You've had ball earthers on here who will just outright lie. Why? Because they're selfish. So if there's more selfish people than honest people,
So why
doesn't matter
continue
what
to
you say
worry
or what
about
you do,
those
right?
selfish people instead of Spurs? Why continue to worry about those selfish people instead of worrying about the people who are open to this truth? I
We're
don't
the
understand.
few. How many flat
There's
earthers are there? What?
Matter for 5 years, then let that person be, man. Right? What are you going to
That's
do
the
to that
world.
person?
Yeah,
Obviously, they
listen.
have seen the evidence. They don't want to take it on, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. You can't force people to see that shit. The only effective way is to get people to critically think for themselves, man.
But
Well said,
Chocolate,
Chocolate.
if you're saying let that person be, that is the majority of the world. The majority of the world is selfish and they don't care about evidence. They don't care unless there's something in it for them. That's the way the world's been engineered from the get-go. As long as you care about yourself, well, that's, we don't care about what you have to say. And that's the majority. So when you say things like that, well, let that person be, I think, well, but that's everybody. You're only going to gather a few. And what's the point if you're just trying to change a few people's minds? I mean, my intention is to have everyone see the truth.
Yeah, we get it.
Because if you change those few people might convince other people, right? And then those people, that's how it spreads, bro. The truth spreads because it's the
I
truth.
want
They
everyone to
can't
know that it's
hide
flat.
it forever.
Not have Spurs, you made a mistake. Your mistake was to bring this topic up to pansy ass withdrawers such as Nathan, 10th, Chocolate, and Arwen. See, you're speaking my love language now. You want militant action. PM me personally. Kudos.
You don't want to be talking to the hermits that live out in the sticks in caves, man. People like us haven't got the right attitudes.
Right.
All
real.
that I
It is
know
real,
is
'cause
that
Nathan, you're giving
worrying
like a
about
double
selfish
message here,
people
right? Because
in general tends to make people
Hold on
selfish.
to us. Go ahead, Darwin.
What I know is that people that continuously worry about selfish people eventually end up becoming selfish. So it's better to let it go and start focusing on the good things and the good ways and stop getting distracted by all that is evil and let it rub off on you. So
No, Arwin, you need to go out and tell the people that they need to focus on good stuff, Arwin. You need to tell them what they need to focus on.
Can we
You need to wake them
segue
up.
to what?
I have
Tell
Quantum
them. You just need to wake them up. People are asleep right now, aren't they? They're walking zombies.
take
They're
a breath.
asleep.
Go drink
You've got to wake them up. Now, we've got to remember, Nathan, your children will be interacting. Unless you hoard your children away from society, they will interact with zombies. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to allow them to interact with zombies and say, no, I'm going to draw? You can't speak to those people. Or you're going to allow them to grow?
Spurs, I think 10th Man wants to respond to you. Go ahead, 10th Man.
I've tasted better Drano that's had less after effects than Spurs rambling on. So can we segue to what Quantum Eraser was talking about, Horizon and refraction and Spurs on the recent show? I'm interested to see what's going on there. This subject's been beat to death. All right.
Can you tolerate being corrected?
I've got a quick question, 10th, for Riley, just because I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. But who is Spasticus?
Who is Spasticus?
I've just seen his video, but I've not seen it yet.
Awesome.
I'm assuming it's to get all the ballers to go, I'm Spasticus.
Yes.
I'm Spasticus.
It's all of the protagonists. They're all guilty by association because this Mr. Sensible. So incompetent at realizing that you can't change the radius, and if you did change the radius, everything else changes with it because it's a proportionate relationship, right? It's scalar. Then they're all guilty by association, so they can argue it out amongst themselves, but they're all guilty by being associated with this moron.
You back
Yes,
off your mic
that's,
3 inches, Anthony.
Domesticated primate did that, and he's got away with those things. He's fantastic.
Yeah. I was chatting to him about it because, to be honest, we were cautious about using the word spastic because in the late 80s, it was like demonized, and it's like as that phase gone, because the actual definition of spastic, there's two. The one definition is the one from the 80s, and the other definition is the insult, the informal insult known as being incompetent. Well, if you think that you can change the radius of Earth, and by only 1 mile, when it's like 10 times further than it should be on the oil platform's picture, you fundamentally don't understand the concept of scale in the context of the argument that we're having. But you can't change it anyway because it's locked at that size. So he just demonstrates twice that he doesn't get the argument. So I'm using it in the context of the second definition, hence why I put it on screen. And we were cautious about whether we should use it or not because it's really borderline.
They also must have missed out on the couple of years that we've been asking in housekeeping any signs of the R value, right?
Just 1 second, Chocolate. Anthony, can you back off your mic like 3 inches? I'm having to turn the line down every time you speak.
Can I do what, sorry?
Just back off your mic about 3 inches.
I can turn my gain down if you want.
Just back it off it about 3 inches.
That should be easy. That should be easy for him. He's another withdrawer.
Hold on, just 1 second, QE. Go ahead, Adam.
I was just on that. For me, it just makes me giggle because I just remember being told off so many times for saying the word spastic. Oh, you spastic. It was like one of the words you used to get told off for your parents as a kid. So it's become accepted. Now, that's interesting. It's in the dictionary in that way we used it as kids in the 80s.
Well, I'm not saying it has been accepted. I'm saying that it is in the dictionary as that in that context, which supports my use of the word. And I'm also kind of playing on the words have got meaning thing. So when gravity is not a force, doesn't mean that you can think of it as a force. So I'm deliberately using it to make them accept that meaning is defined and that it's within context. But they have to accept it because it's in the dictionary, right?
Yeah. Well, back to the point. It should be easy, very simple for Anthony to back off his mic 3 inches because he's a withdrawer. He's a withdrawer like this whole panelist, right? I got a question.
I don't get the withdrawal.
How do I get out of this chicken shit outfit? Spurs, PM me.
Right.
Secure that shit, Hudson.
Let me just explain to Chocolate.
Can we get some definition on what you said, QE, about horizon and refraction? Because if Spurs doesn't get that right, how's he going to start this revolution?
Yeah, I was listening to a Spurs put a video inside Skype. I think it was yesterday. Had like a nature title to it, and I said, "Oh, listen, I'll check it out." Of course, it had all the friggin' knuckle draggers on it. Gem Panda, who can't tie his shoes without a fleet of slobber nurses, along with the rest of the ED 2.0, that erectile dysfunction crowd. I thought they disbanded. They haven't. Spurs has found them somewhere in a corner or something, right? These guys started bringing up, refraction, the geometric horizon. It's refracted. It's apparent. And I didn't hear any rebuttals. What's up with that?
That for you guys, John. It was more, see it more like an interview because these guys, if you shut them down immediately, they won't answer. So I try to just extrapolate as many answers as possible because I know it will cause outrage as the viewer is listening to that. So yeah, I leave that for you. There's so many of them, so I just tried to get their response to this question.
Are you saying you were withdrawing from them a little bit? Would you say that?
No, I'm just exposing. No, I'm exposing the nonsense that they say. I mean, it's like you should hear this. You should hear what they say, and that's why.
So you were just.
I mean, they contradict themselves in the same breath. One will say physical, and the next one immediately say it's not physical, and it's just I just let them.
So
You know, when they say
so you're saying you weren't really debating them, you were just kind of just letting them talk and bury themselves.
Exactly,
basically.
give them enough
That-
rope. And I knew
Well,
you guys,
that would be
anyone who hears
opposite.
that would be
That
like,
would be
what?
that
Is
would
this
be
real?
opposite, Spurs, of what you were telling us, because that's not revolutionary at all.
Well, what's
Spurs.
revolutionary is going straight to the source. So that's what we're trying to do, is going straight
Yeah,
to the
but you
people.
you went to the
We're getting
source
arrested
and you
for it. We're getting in
melted.
trouble for it. We're getting shut down for it. So we may
you
have
went to the
to
source.
revise, regroup, and
this
come up with
guy
an
is
alternative
just-
of how to get to the source quickly. Yeah.
You went to the source and never directly challenged them, is what you're saying.
Well, I want to get
But
to
he
the
has
people.
before.
So again,
I've heard
people
him
hear
do it
that.
already,
If
so
the
it's
people are
not.
hearing
That's
this,
why my assumption is that
No,
he was just
Chocolate,
letting
I'm
them talk because I've
contrasting.
heard him.
No, that's not what I'm doing, Chocolate. I'm contrasting how he made accusations about us taking time with our children and others that we have influence with was not enough of a move. But yet he goes on these shows and just drags and drags and
No, don't
drags.
take it
and doesn't
personally,
get to
10th
the
man. I
point.
wasn't saying you directly, but the idea is that there are two paths.
How do you
There
think
are
it
some
was
people
taken
who
when
are
you
like, look,
said?
I don't want to be part of the system, and they just want to withdraw. I'm not saying you are doing that, but I'm just saying there are others who are like, well, no, hold on, I have a duty here. This is outrage. I want to go directly to the schools, to the people, to the government, to NASA, to whoever it may be, and have action. Actions speak louder than words.
Well, why?
That's what
Go
some
there
people
then.
want.
Don't
Yes.
go to Jim Panda. Go there.
Yeah, I will do. Given a short amount
What's
of
the
time, yeah. I
withdrawal
mean, obviously, I'm
thing?
having a conversation
Maybe I
right now,
missed some of this.
but they're not
Revolutions
going
are
anywhere.
the grabbler of gold.
Those guys
Okay.
are on this belief, and again,
Stupid.
they're very helpful in terms of showing people the dogma, the incredulity that they hold. They can't understand this horizon. For me, having these guys say this is key. That's what makes people on the fence say, well, hold on, these guys, because I don't know if you saw Bev try thinking. He went there and he said, oh, well, this is the place to come because you guys know geometry. Tongue in cheek, right? But he's saying that you guys know geometry. Mr. M. Scott Beach, he's a maths PhD. So people go there and they're like, okay, if you know this, answer this, know this, answer this. And when they say the things that they
Beach
say,
couldn't friggin' breathe on his own. He's a what? PhD?
Yeah.
M. Scott Beach. You
Yeah.
frigging retard. How's that modern synthesis working out for you?
I mean, we've had
But
some
to get
classic
back-
things. I mean, John's got a
get back
great
on topic.
list of the things that they say. We're documenting I mean, how do you describe I mean, Brenda with the shoe phenomenon. You know, I mean, if someone's on the fence now and really looking for science and thinking, okay, so I'm looking for a method or a procedure of how to see and observe phenomena, and then they hear Brenda say shoe, they're
Yeah, but you
falling
were
off that fence
criticizing
straight into
Nathan.
flat Earth world.
Hang on, Spurs. You were criticizing Nathan for not doing enough, and yet it was his show that incident happened on. So he's doing his part, and now you're saying, "Hey, this is what needs to happen."
No, I didn't say that. Never criticized
you
Nathan.
did.
So Nathan's doing absolute
You said
wonders.
Nathan.
No, I didn't say any of that. I'm just saying. I mean, again, we have the show.
Stop talking.
No, don't misconstrue 10th man.
Oh my
Nathan,
gosh.
the man, and
On
the
10th
show.
man, you
here,
know
right?
Spur Schemer doesn't stop talking.
Just going with
Yeah, I'm just saying that he's
10th.
conflating here the
No,
two.
that's what you want to do anyway.
Withdraw.
10th man, you just, I think you're upset by it. I mean, you've taken it personal. It was not personal. It's just saying that, we want.
Well, I'm not taking it personal. I am attributing your comment after my comment without any clarification that you were making that it meant society as a whole.
Yeah, well, I want change. I want action.
Why are you deflecting how you didn't do a proper job of saying, 10th man, well done with your kids. Now, let me change the subject to society as a whole. Why didn't you do that?
No one's knocking what you've done with the children. I'm not saying any of that. So again, you're missing the point.
I'm talking about you.
Clearly, obviously, yeah, you can take your children out, but I mean, should you really have to?
Let's hear this
should
guy
you really
is on a separate universe, I
really
think.
have to
I
separate
can't
your
get
family from the system? It's not like you say, right, I'm not going to drive on their roads.
Spurs,
I'm not going to
you're
use their
deflecting and
shops. I'm not going
changing
to
the
use,
subject.
their parks. you still operate in society. There's just a part of it that needs to be fixed. That's all here, you know.
Okay, Spurs, I thank you for your time. I can't talk to you. You're talking a whole different language here. You can't even stay on topic. I'm going to withdraw.
Well, it's like you're saying, if you knew that I'm not saying you're saying this. I'm saying it's like you're saying this to me. It's like you're saying this to me. It's like if you knew the police here were corrupt, were being paid off, and they could do all kinds of things. You're saying, well, you know, I'll tell people they're corrupt, but I won't actually go there and actually do anything about it. So that's how we've limited corruption in this country. I'm not saying there's no corruption in this country, but
I was
if you
being
go to
nice. I withdrew. Now you misidentified everything. You're putting words in my mouth. I don't do that. I don't live that way. So stop saying you like me, because that wasn't me. Okay?
Yeah,
Please
it's the
don't do
royal
that.
you, the royal you. But it's not like
what? What?
So I mean, it's
Did you
not
say
that there's
you?
corruption in
The
the police
royal
because, you know,
you,
we
like
frown upon
you
that,
in
right?
general.
So we should
How
frown
many
upon
yous
in
am
the
I?
same
How
way.
many yous am I?
Sperskimo likes to constantly address the entire world when he's talking to other people. It's a bad habit, I guess.
Flat Earth
Well,
evangelist.
when he says you, he's
Yeah, it's
talking
the
about
world
me.
we're talking about,
When he
aren't
says
we?
the world, I'm
not
saying
not
he's
just a
talking about me.
part, not just a small section of
please
society,
let other people
right?
talk. Yeah, please, someone else was in the middle of a sentence. Go
Sorry.
ahead, Tenth.
I said when Spurs said you, I assumed by the words you, he was talking to me. But he now says he was talking about the world or the royal you. Who is the royal you? I thought there was only one you.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way I say it. It's just the way I speak. Not you directly, you, but just
Then
like when
don't say
one, I should
you.
say, when one, like, but
Then
just a
don't
person.
say you.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, to you means. I know it means you, but it's all right.
Spurs, if I can have your attention just for a second, hopefully without interruption. There's this general ambiguity in the language you're using where you say things like they and then use words like propaganda and then you go on to use words like overturn. But when we dial that down to some specificity, we get to an idea of psychologists doing a little test. But your notions are grandiose, but your details are quite lacking when you pin down what you're actually talking about in these kind of general vague terms, using they and you, meaning the royal you, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm talking about the magicians, those guys who weave magic.
Who are they?
Like NASA.
NASA. There we go. That's specific.
What?
That's specific. Great. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, they are just.
We like to
Hold
get
on, Chocolate.
Spurs.
Hold on, Chocolate. Hold on, Owen. Hold on. He's finally got some specificity. Let's hear what he's got to say. NASA. We need to overturn NASA.
Oh, I'm not finished. Not just NASA, Hollywood and NASA, things like this, right? TV, movies, programs, television. These are the guys who are the wizards who weave magic, who indoctrinate the masses. That's the they I'm talking about. That's why.
I think you're forgetting about the internet.
Hold on.
The internet.
I've finally got him onto a track, Harwin. So
that's why.
Spurs. It's like you're a baller. Because Arwen's interrupted me, you see it as your opportunity to when I finally get to actually make my point. So we've got some specificity, and the conduit for both of those things was the television set. Or the silver screen. So we've got Hollywood and NASA. Both of which I've got an off button for, which I described earlier.
Sure. But not at school, because I've seen children speak to astronauts, so-called astronauts, live, hordes of children in halls.
Okay.
Asking
Spurs. Okay. Right. And again, and I'm going to put an extra caveat in just for you. Without withdrawing from society, I can still educate my children without Big Daddy government. And I don't have to completely withdraw from society to do that.
So hold on a second. So your next door neighbour, their child.
I don't care. Don't care. Not my problem. Not my problem. It's my neighbour. If he falls down the stairs, am I going to help him? Yeah, of course. But is it Spurs? Is it my responsibility to educate his children? Now I know his children, Spurs.
That's not my
Spurs.
point. This is about your
Spurs.
child, not you.
Why are you constantly interrupting me? So irritating.
You interrupted my point, Nathan. I didn't get to finish. I wasn't talking
What about my
you. I'm
neighbour?
saying if that
It's not my Spurs. It's none of my business what he does with his kids. They're not my responsibility. Now the fact that he puts them in school.
Play together. Can they play together?
The fact that you're talking about schools. So we're being specific.
Now they go to the
Spurs.
same school. Can they play together when they
Spurs,
come home?
you're driving me absolutely nuts, right? I haven't had sleep for about 6 days. 2 sick kids, right? So I'm very irritable. I just want to make my point once. My neighbour's kids, and how they are educated aren't my responsibility. So I can't tell him. That's not my place. What he does with his kids is none of my business.
Okay, but I'm saying if you're that's why I have to ask you before I say you drawn. Before I say that, I'm asking: are you going to allow your children to play with other children in the street? They say, "Dad, can I go out the streets?" Are you going to say, "Well, are you going to allow them?" So let's say you allow them now, for example, and then they start talking about space. One of them says, "Oh yeah, did you see that thing on the television?" They say, "No, I didn't see that," and then they get into an argument, discussion, a fight. We could have prevented that.
Who cares?
What?
What's this got to do with A, what the school's doing, and B, what my neighbour's kids are doing? If they play together and talk about space, who cares?
Well, they can get into a fight over this.
So what?
What do you mean?
Oh my
Can get
God!
into a
Somebody
fight?
may get into a fight.
Yeah, they might get into a fight over whether or not
Oh my God!
He-Man's better than Thundercats. So what?
So we can prevent bullying and all these kind of things, yeah?
Oh my God, now it's about bullying when you're out at the park. Are you kidding me?
No, it's not about that. It's just about preventing a broken society. Yeah?
I don't see it as broken. I see there's certain systems that you can choose to engage with or not. Now you're saying, I want to engage with them, but I also want to simultaneously control the system that I'm engaging with. And it's just, I just don't agree with that philosophy.
Just want to honest. I'm not getting that. I don't get that.
We're not mandatory school in this part of the world, Spurs. If it was the case that it was absolutely mandatory and they were going to school whether I liked it or not, then I'd have something to say and I'd agree with you. And there'd be something needing overturning and pitchforks would be required as far as I would be concerned. But that's not the case here.
Well, I'm still not clear on the message, yeah? I mean, you're going to say, you're going to just remove your kids from these things. I mean, this can't happen for everybody. So, I mean, that's fine. If you don't feel for these people and they're just like nothing to you, doesn't matter what they do, they live their lives, that's your choice.
Okay, Spurs, let me try with a comparison. I've just had one come to mind. Right. So there's plenty of gun ranges out in the States. And there are plenty of people who run classes, let's just call them schools, on shooting guns. And you can take your child to this gun range and have a class or lesson on shooting guns. Now, you could argue that you don't want your kids to learn how to shoot guns, that it ultimately breeds violence, and that you don't want your neighbour doing it either. But that would be unreasonable. What would be reasonable is that you don't enroll your child in that school, which you have the choice to do. Now, do you go around demanding that those schools close down, or that they change the way they teach kids, or that they should be using bow and arrows with little rubber bungs on the end? No! Totally unreasonable, Spurs. You don't like the system of education for guns? Then don't teach your kids how to fire a gun. Simple. You don't like NASA telling them that space is a vacuum? Then you can turn off your TV.
Okay, so let's try a different approach. So what this is, why I think you're missing the point is because this question about the shape of the earth is about life or death. You know, the ultimate understanding is about whether you have life or whether you have death, right? So that's why when you compare, or not just you, I've heard ball earthers do, anyone do it, try to compare the flat earth, the shape of the earth, all of that to other things. Well, there is no comparison. to know the truth about this existence is about you, your consciousness, who you are, has a lot more meaning. So obviously for you on a flat earth, you're just like, well, it's still physical. It's still, it doesn't change anything for me. I can just run off to the countryside. But, for most people, this has a bigger question. There are atheists out there who think there is, no God or whatever, stuff like this. And this question would answer or would help them answer that question, will go a long way.
Would it?
That's why I think it's...
Would it?
This is just more philosophy.
Would it?
Yeah, this is more philosophy.
Would it? How do you know that? You're divining the thoughts of millions of people.
I've spoke to them, and for them, a lot of the atheists who have transitioned to the flat earth have now become spiritual because they say, well, science has lied to us and they told us that we didn't need a God, and now it just makes sense. It just things start clicking into place for them. I don't know what it is.
No worries. That's what you've been told. Timestamp and video, please. Where have you been told that?
No, just generally.
Not just generally, but you're on air all the time. I want an example. It happens all the time, apparently. This is generally your divine thoughts of millions that you've got examples of. So, presumably, if it happens all the time, you can give me a timestamp and example where someone had a revelation.
That what?
What you've just described.
What? Coming to the flat earth? Yeah. So, I don't know if you know Debbie, trapped in flat earth reality. She said she didn't believe in any kind of God or anything like this. She believed in science. She understood the earth was flat, and then she realized there was a creator, and then everything changed for her. So that's just one example.
No, that's her describing her journey. No, I'm talking about you having a conversation with someone and then having that moment where that changed for them during that conversation.
Oh, no, that doesn't happen overnight. This is a process.
What do you mean? You just made out like it was millions of people's thoughts, and if you could only communicate this to them, they'd have this flash of divine inspiration based on your words. Now you're saying, no, I've got an example where someone had already come to this information and just expressed their journey as a comparison of them having this revelation that you haven't got examples of. You're just talking utter shite, Spurs.
I don't even know what you mean. I'm just saying that.
I know what I mean. I'm talking about you completely spouting nonsense. Talking about people who, if you evangelise to them, will have a divine flash of inspiration about the flat earth, about how it's life and death. Yeah, you've got these grandiose bullshit nonsense assertions that you're making, and when you get drilled down to an actual example, you talk about somebody who talks about their path in past tense. You haven't got any examples of people having a divine flash of inspiration based on your evangelism for this flat earth thing that you think is a group. It isn't.
No. Hold on. Well, this is where your journey stops. Where you kind of go into the countryside and you're like,
oh, right, is it now? So I've now back to the I'm withdrawn in the countryside, not on YouTube with 17,000 subscribers. What kind of deluded world do you live in, Spurs? I communicate daily to people. I'm not withdrawn. I'm very much as a part of society. I will leave where I am when this show finishes and go and do things with my kids out in society in classes that I choose to put them in. I'm not in the slightest bit withdrawn. You've got this black and white way of seeing the world where either you're under the cosh of the boogeyman that needs overturning and it's life or death, or you've been evangelized to by Spurs with absolutely no examples of any of this ever happening, and suddenly they'll have a revelation about how life and death the world really is if you know the earth is flat. It's just nonsense, Spurs.
So that's what I'm saying to you. You haven't had any revelation because of flat earth. It's still physical to you.
Why are you divining my thoughts? Of all the people you could say that to, I'm the one person that can say I actually had a flash before my eyes when I heard the information. When I heard Matt Powerland say the words flat earth, I had all this stuff that I'd done in my lifetime flash before my eyes. Yeah, I very much am the poster child of a revelation at hearing this information. I'm the one person you can't say it to, but I, from personal experience, have experienced the polar opposite of that, Spurs. Me telling them and trying to evangelise to them, and then bracing against it. Not suddenly having a flash of inspiration about how life and death this information is. No. Completely the opposite, Spurs.
I'm not talking about a eureka moment. I'm talking about a spiritual enlightening because of the shit.
Right, so you've just substituted eureka moment for a spiritual enlightenment, which is what I originally described it as. You can't give me a single example of anybody experiencing spiritual enlightenment other than me. I'm the only example you could probably cite.
I'll say one word.
I suppose I don't think you've got a boogeyman to attack. I don't think there's anything that needs overturning, and I think that some introspection, generally speaking, if you speak to a Buddhist, is generally a good thing. Now, introspection on the topic of the nature of the lie that we've been told in your view, for me, has expanded into... Of course I'm going to get fucking interrupted. Has expanded into an understanding that there may not actually be a lie at all. That if you look at it beyond the surface, the quotes that we use, the citations we pull from, are their citations, their magicians, their disclaimers. So really, they've told us all along and there isn't a lie, and what the hell are we going to overturn? Oh, my bad, psychologists.
Yeah. So all I was asking you was... If you haven't had that spiritual transition...
I have. So is this the royal you that isn't me, the specific person that you're talking to now? Because I just described how I heard the words flat earth uttered by Matt Powerland, and because he wasn't uttering them in ridicule, I had everything I'd ever experienced on every flight I'd ever taken, every thought I'd put on the back burner when I was a small child, thinking about the nonsense of gravity. All that stuff flashed very much before my eyes in an instant, and I ran into my wife, woke her up in the middle of the night and told her that the earth was flat. I'm probably the single example that can qualify what you're saying, but I am not the norm.
No, that's a eureka moment. That's a...
Yeah! And I'm saying, when have you got an example of you speaking to someone in evangelizing about the nature of life and death reality as you describe it, and them saying, oh my God, yes, I must see God now. You haven't got any examples.
Yeah, I've just told you, Debbie.
Debbie told you in past tense. You were asking her about how she came to the subject, about her introspection and her journey. You didn't tell her some information and suddenly she had the world flash before her eyes.
It doesn't work like that. That's not what I've said.
Yeah, it is. You're saying that if you I can never say this word, evangelize to people, that suddenly they'll have this flash of inspiration. They'll appreciate if you're a bit more active in your evangelization of this subject. That's your whole point. That's why I'm objecting, and now you're saying, well, I'm not saying that. It's a journey of discovery for someone as an individual. What my point?
So you haven't reached that point is what I'm trying to say. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, what point? That I should suddenly feel I need to go out and overturn psychologists?
No, why they're lying to us?
Because I've just explained that if you look beneath the surface, you can find that even the people that perpetuate this nonsense at the highest echelons of bullshit, like George Musa, make it plain that you can think how he tells you to, but ultimately what he's saying isn't correct. Gravity's not a force, for example, of his own words. So it's not that he's lying, it's just you need to pay a bit closer attention. In other words, if I go and challenge the so-called boogeyman in terms of his rhetoric, he'll laugh at me and say, no, peasant, you just didn't understand philosophy. I haven't lied to you. You're just not intelligent enough to understand that when I say gravity's not a force, but you, peasant, can, if you want to, think of it as a force. You can. I'm not lying to you. Just because you did, and then you decided that that was actually the world you lived in, makes you stupid. But I'm not lying to you. That's what the masters you perceive would say to you. In this instance, I'm that man, and I'm saying it to you. I'm tired of conspiratard flat earthers. I'm sick of it. I'm a reasonably level-headed guy. And I'm tired with this brush of conspiracy because there's people around me who are chasing after bloody boogeymen and calling everyone shills. And we're here on an education channel talking about, and getting interrupted by wankers, talking about how they actually play their story out. The facts of the matter. The model. What a model is. Now, these are all words used in their vernacular. But you want to come here and tell me how I need to overturn something because of the lies. All right, well, I'm peddling the lies then, because we're highlighting where they tell you it's nonsense. So am I a liar?
What goes along with that?
Am I a liar?
Creation.
Am I one of those liars that needs overturning when I quote George Musa, their magician? Because if by that standard I'm one of the peddlers of the lie.
Also he's an evolutionist. He's fighting for that side. You're fighting for the side of creation. I don't think you even realize that. But that's the point. So you can't say, well, I'm fighting for a creation and a creator, but let's not talk about that creator, which has a consciousness and a spirit and all those things. Let's leave that to one side. How can you have one without the other?
Again, we're on a different subject. We're on to creationism now. I can easily
No, it's the
pick out...
same thing. If you've got
get 3 fucking breaths. I can easily pick out several quotes from other heliocentric priests that make it plain that God is real, and they're scientists who are actually doing experiments. Yeah? I'm tired of you talking through me, Spurs. I'm having to close down the line every time I decide I want a sentence. Yeah? I'm too knackered to cope with your nonsense, Spurs. I just want to be able to talk unimpeded, please. So, I've got plenty of quotes where they make it plain from science that God's real. Now, that's also their rhetoric, and by your standards, I'm one of the liars that needs overturning for quoting it on a channel marked as educational. Now, you want to come here with your conspiratard ways and talk about overturning things with no specificity. Life and death according to you. No, just education, Spurs. Making people realise where they're wrong, where they've been misinformed. That's what I'm here for. Not to overturn anything. And if there's a means and a way, there's going to be somebody doing it, like Anthony. And he is. That's not my bag. But I don't think this conspiratard notion that gets us all tarred with this really terrible brush of being people who are, I don't know, mischievous. Pitchforks and torches. And I don't want that to be me. And I'm in this community whether I like it or not.
Hey, Nathan.
Hello.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone else wants to give their view or opinions on either side, if you're on Nathan's position on keeping it physical, or is there more to it than that? Is it hand in hand? That's the question here. I mean, again, if you have the globe, you don't need to talk about anything spiritual because you don't need for it. Spin a ball, create a big bang. That's where it ends. But to say the flat Earth and then you just say, well, that's it then, and then leave people dangling, I don't understand that. But that's just my opinion.
Their hands everywhere, Spurs. Some things you're gonna have to allow people to come to themselves, especially when you're talking about spiritually.
Spurs, why are you trying to do the job of the Holy Spirit? The Bible clearly says that it's the Holy Spirit who convicts the world of sin, righteousness, and judgment. It's not, we don't do that to other people.
Yeah, everybody's on their own path. They'll get there at the right time.
Anyway, you can bring other people next.
Hang on. God's in charge.
I'm done. I'm going to mute now anyway.
Stop. Oh, thank you. You found the mute button. My prayers do get answered. All right. God is in charge.
I have another question.
Go on, 10th man.
Hello?
God is in charge of conversion, not 10th man, not a church, not a movement. The truth that builds upon other truth, and that individual is a one-to-one connection with the Spirit of God. And that's where that is. Now, do I witness? Do I share the truth? Of course I do. I may have a small part in the whole thing, but I'm not in charge of it. There was somebody else, Nathan, who said hi. Let's give him a chance.
Yeah, hi, sorry, that's me, Mustan. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry. Sorry, I have to hop. Well, I think I'll guess. Yeah, I just wanted to drop something regarding the Black Swan, but I'm a bit short on time today. Actually, I expected to join a bit earlier. When is the best time to join Discord tomorrow?
3 hours ago, 2.5 hours ago.
Pacific time.
Sorry, I'm Central European time.
Yeah, 3 hours ago, or 2.5 hours ago from now, whatever time that is in your area.
Okay, so yeah, but I mean, how do I? So actually, I should join right in the beginning to be sure to have a slot. Is that correct?
I would say so. I mean, Discord's not something I'm that familiar with, tends to be the case. I start the show and there's maybe 6 people here, and then by the time the show's live, there's 1 or 2 gaps.
I mean, is there any easier way to join? Because I haven't found one. I'm not really a tech guy.
Sure. What's your question in regards to the Black Swan?
No, well, look, I wanted to show something, but actually, right now I'm at work, so I don't have the time anymore. But I wanted to show something visually, so to discuss it. But I'm sorry, I really don't have the time anymore.
Come to the pre-show tomorrow before the show starts. You got about half an hour there.
Okay. Thanks. Well, cheers, guys. Thank you very much. Bye.
Well, give them the exact time.
The ideal exact time is about 1:30 UK.
Well, just tell me your time and I'll figure it out.
UK time is about half an hour before the live show, so 1:30 UK time. That's when I tend to start and people start to pile in.
Okay, but is there any easier way to join then through Discord?
No, that's it.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, that's it. That's the public
Just
gateway.
Just hit the live stream. Nathan's under live stream. Nathan Oakley. Just hit the join show.
He's in there now.
It's easy.
Yeah, in Discord, right?
Yeah, like you are now.
Okay.
If
thanks.
something needs presenting, we will
problem.
make sure that it
Thanks,
gets to
guys.
the audience, though. Don't worry about that. I can.
So what's your name?
Mooston.
Moose. Is that what his name is in Discord? I can't see it.
Yeah, Moose Tone or M-O. Is it M-O-U-S?
Moose. Okay, we got you. And if we see you tomorrow, we'll try to get you in. If you can't get in,
Thanks.
just message us in the live stream chat, and you can always join in the
Okay.
after show, which you're in now, where a whole bunch of people can join, up to 30.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Cheers.
I'm tenterhooked now because I want to hear what he's got to say. This is gutted. Hey ho.
Well, just withdraw till tomorrow. You'll be all right.
I'll go back in the cave and turn off the electric.
You know, I'm having some live show withdrawals and
Why? Because I screamed at Brenda.
yeah.
Have you moved yet, Flatsoid?
Yeah, and that's why I can't get on the live show. I have no reception at work. I'm in the middle of the mountains in the bush.
Withdrawn.
Another one. I knew
I was
it.
just gonna say that.
I got there first.
Yeah, you're a real hillbilly now.
Yeah.
Well, just let us know how your divorce from society goes, Flatsoid.
Don't worry, Spurs. Just contact me. You're speaking my love language, right? Just PM me. We'll get into tactics.
But all jokes aside, I think it is like in reality, it's a scary thing to think this entire monster entity has attacked us like this, and now we have to attack back. It's like we know what they're capable of. We know how they can easily sway people.
Who are they again?
So obviously, it's daunting, right? To go
Who are they?
against
Who are they? Who are they? Who are they? Who are they? Specifically?
NASA and Hollywood. Go attack them, Spurs. I want to see it. Videotape.
The
it. I wanna watch every
education,
move.
the entire system, Nathan. Everyone who supports this lie,
Education,
that system,
entire
this
system.
matrix you're talking about, right?
The Matrix, that's us. The hive mind,
No,
as
no,
Mark
but-
Sargent puts it. So you're talking about individuals who are connected by the permanent.
Everybody who's defending this lie, yes.
Okay. So
They-
you need to
they do
overturn.
defend this lie.
Yeah. So we need to overturn people at an individual, one-on-one basis level, as opposed to there being an entity that you've conceptualized there being that needs overturning. There isn't such an entity, as far as I'm concerned. It's just the Matrix.
Yeah, filled with individuals. And those
Yeah.
people are a collective. And
Yeah.
those collectives sway huge numbers of people. Just like we're doing. We're a collective and we're swaying the consensus, right? It's almost like politics almost.
so it's
right?
working.
We're campaigning for people to agree, even though it's about facts, not about opinion. I know this, but this is what it is. People are like, well, okay, then, well, what's the shape of the earth and what's going on? Da, da, da.
So it's working,
that's what it's
right,
about.
Spurs?
People believe it's a ball because of consensus, not because of evidence. Not one bit of evidence. No proof. We've got no pictures. They've got no real flights to, nothing to support the moon landing. So it's consensus. So we have to reverse that.
So you admitted that this show is swaying people. So it's working.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, then what's the complaint?
I'm not complaining.
Oh my gosh, this guy needs a
You
therapist.
just want it to happen a little bit faster, Spurs. I get it. It pisses you off sometimes. It pisses me off sometimes. I
No.
get it, bro.
No.
But
Nathan's doing what Nathan's doing is what he's doing, but we're talking about his children, the children. I'm not saying I should talk. I'm talking about the people inside. He's saying he wants to withdraw, not him, but like I asked about the neighbors, would he allow his children to play with other children? He's saying yes. So yeah, or yes, or so they're going to get into discussions about the shit, so just things where we could prevent.
So what would be the ideal scenario in that, Spurs? Not allow his kids to play with the other kids, or Spurs? Hold on,
and we're the
man.
people to do it then.
Spurs. Can I finish what the hell I'm saying? What would be the ideal scenario? Not allow his kids to play with the other kids, or I don't know, maybe educate his kids to a point where maybe they can actually educate the other kids, right? Maybe his kids will be able to tell the other kids, hey, you know what I know about the earth, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe that'll make the kids think a little bit. And then those kids go into their house, ask their parents, hey, I heard this, blah, 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 blah. What's going on? And now you started the conversation in another household without even knowing it. You get it?
Maybe
as opposed
what
to, well, I'm just gonna not let my kids go outside because somebody might say, look, it's a ball. Right? That's just ridiculous.
What I'm suggesting is the next level,
of all,
Tosh, where
Nathan
you don't
never
have
said
to
that.
do
Hold on,
That's
hold on,
not
Timmy.
necessary. Nathan shouldn't have to take his children and say these things, what you're saying. You shouldn't have to have where the child is educated by another child or something. This should be not. I'm talking about normality. You're missing my point here. We want a normal world. Things back to normal. When you were growing up, you thought everything was just normal. No adults were coming up to you saying, oh, do you know the world's spooky and it's wrong and people are lying? You just grew up in a normal world. So if we can get back to that, but in an honest way, just normal, where things are taught honestly in school, where you don't have to do what you've just described, where, it's not necessary. Why should anyone have to go to that extreme when it's not needed, right?
Everything
you
you
don't need to
do,
You've got the
Spurs,
infrastructure
everything you do has to do with chemotherapy. You know that? It all goes back to that. Nathan never said he was withdrawing his kids from playing in the street with other kids. You said that about him. He never said that. He said he was going to stop the lies from coming through to affect his kids. That's not the same as withdraw, right? That's not the same word. Stopping something and withdrawing are two different meanings.
But again, I think I'm saying what I'm trying to say. Then I don't know if it's coming. I'm trying to protect Nathan there by saying that he shouldn't have to do these things. It's not necessary. He didn't grow up doing these things. He grew up in a normal world where he thought things were normal. I don't know if he did or he didn't. I'm just saying we all grew up in a world where we thought, well, space is real. This is normal, and everything is normal, and the world's this and that. Now we're saying we have to adjust because we now know we've been lied to. And now we have to do something differently. When it's again, we don't. If we maneuver in a way where the people are speaking,
the guy's got a show 5 days a week.
Right. That's fine. Yeah,
He's
that's what I'm saying. Is that we, the path should be on is things back to normal, not where we have to think right because they're doing this, we have to do this.
Are you
that's just going to cause confusion, anarchy, and riots, and that won't be normal. That didn't happen to you as a child growing up.
What will you consider normal, Spurs? What will you consider to be normal?
Is Nathan a grown man?
Nathan's doing fantastic. It's nothing to do with that. I'm saying this is, like I say, this is for protecting the people who think, right, we have to adjust because the system is broken, it's bad. He said he's thinking, well, I have to do something about it. So I can't have my children go to this school because they're just going to tell them lies, or I can't do this, that, and that. And I'm saying, well, there's an alternative. We don't have to go that extreme. I know we may have to do it in the near future. We may have to do that now, immediately now. But long term, that shouldn't be the goal where we're just dragging people out of places because we know something is wrong. We should try to fix what is wrong, and then we resume. It's just like a bus service. The buses are not running correctly, at Christmas time or New Year's, and then everyone's, it's back to normal service. Great. So right now, this is not running normal
Spurs.
service, and we want things back.
Spurs, you came on crying for a revolution. Now you're saying we don't have to go that far. Then you say Nathan's withdrawing when he actually didn't withdraw. He started a show from scratch and is. Can you stop talking? How old are you? We should start with manners first. Nathan has now withdrawn. He started a show. I'm on the show. He's already had an effect. QE's on the show. Both of them and all the other panel members have had an effect on me, which means I'm having an effect on everybody I know. And it's growing and it's working. And then you say it's not fast enough. And then say you want a revolution. And then now you say you don't want a revolution. Make up your mind.
Yeah, Tint, you're making me hungry.
Thank you. That's the one thing we all agree on. Food.
Ooh, I just got lunch.
One thing I can say, I can make nice observations.
Thanks for that, Flatzoid.
Sorry?
I said thanks.
For
letting us know how nice the observations that NASA make are.
I think because Nathan is so good at what he does, I think the people want more from him. It's like, he's got such a grip, a grasp. He's, destroying left, right, and center. I think it's like, again, the flat earthers or me, it's like, well, come on, what now? We've got all of this. We're ready. We're more than ready. And so, yeah, I'm not saying you should ever stop doing what you do. This is because I'm, seeing the ball earthers not being able to answer, that's what it's all about. But you've got such a power. And with that, with the knowledge, we've got to be able to do things. We've got to be able to do great things. We could be all over this system with this knowledge. So I think that's just what it is. It's just like Chocolate saying, we want things, I want things moving forward. So if you were ever thinking of withdrawal, we're going to drag you out and say, well, no, you've got too much.
It is moving forward.
All right.
You're acting as if Nathan. You just applaud him. You just applaud him for doing, and he's got such a grip, and he knows how to and then you say it's not moving forward when it is moving forward.
Oh, we want more. Don't you understand more? We want more from him.
Make him General Nathan? You want to make him General Nathan?
People are saying, why isn't Nathan coming out, doing these things? We want more from him. We're flat earthers. We're a very small group, but he has a very loud argument. So that means we can be very effective. It's very frustrating if you're thinking, right, we can do things, but we're not doing it. That's what we're saying.
Yes, we are doing that. Flat Earth has only grown,
not.
So...
But I want more, and
you want more, do you?
Yeah, I want more.
Well, go do more.
We want this lie.
Because everybody's doing pretty much what they can, I think.
How long do you want this lie to go on for, Arwen?
For as long as it needs to.
Arwen has a show before this show. Hang on, Spurs. That's uncalled for. Arwen has a 1-hour show 7 days a week, 2 days more than Nathan. Yeah. And he comes on this show. He's doing what he's doing, and you're saying do more.
We need more. We need more.
Yes, so do I. Donate to my GoFundMe. I need more.
I mean, I'll do more. I'm at work right now, so I'll do more if you come tell my bosses that I don't have to be here to get my paycheck. That'll be cool.
What Nathan and Kiwi has done right, prepared everybody. I mean, what is everybody waiting for? We have Kiwi's telling you constantly, Nathan's telling you
Somebody has
constantly.
bad echo.
So not necessarily just from Kiwi
Close
Nathan,
your
because
mic
they've
if you're
given you
not
the
talking.
So just as a whole, I mean, I think because this will go out to the people. So we just want more. That's what it is. They're making up excuses now. As I said to Nathan earlier on in the show, Blue Marble, they just say, well, the radius is bigger. They've got the radius wrong. The Earth is not that size. It's still a ball, just different size. So when we hear things like that, we either get frustrated and scream and pull out our hair,
No, we
or
don't.
we take
No,
calling
we
Blue
don't.
Marble?
We laugh. We laugh because Hillbilly Blue Balls, the
Schemo is
redneck
bored and he
retard,
wants to create a panic.
because Hillbilly Blue Balls, the redneck retard, shows up disproving gas pressure without a container with 2 containers. So we laugh at those people. Right? That's what we do.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Because I think
It is entertaining.
I think the problem
Spurs,
is
you
you
need to
just try
stick
too
to
hard to
clubbing baby Globers over the
All of
head
this.
with the Black Swan argument.
We're still in training, Travis, yes? I mean, I've always said it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Again, but, people in the race will get excited and try and, just get this lie. I mean, it is for the children. I mean, it's not for the individual, is it? We're not looking for pats on the backs or awards or medals or anything like that. Once the lie is revealed and everyone knows it's flat, but we just move forward, we move on, we carry on with what you were doing when things were normal. All right, but right now we're in a panic.
So Spurs. So after a full hour and a half of your nonsense thoughts that weren't connecting, now you say it's a marathon and we need to be patient.
No, yeah, because we're just
Well, you
going
would
through.
be
It's
correct,
emotion,
because
isn't
this
it?
call
Going
for
through the
revolution is
look,
just
this is the
ridiculous.
point. This is why I say I've always said in it. It's psychological. We're going through the emotions. 1 minute we want it done right now. Next minute we have to
Well,
slow
maybe
it
you
down.
should speak for yourself.
You are going through the emotions. You're the one with the
Yes,
problem, and
we're
you're
going through.
projecting
We're
it
going
on
through
all of us.
emotions, and no, everyone's emotional about this. You go up and
Oh,
down.
really? Am I emotional about this? I'm so emotional about this. Perskimo is such a good diviner, man. He's so great. He knows
You're
everything.
very emotional about this,
But I don't even.
right?
No, I do divining myself,
Everyone.
Perskimo, and what you're doing right
All
now,
of the
it's
active
so
flat earthers are very
it's
emotional
stupid.
about this. It's our passion,
You can't
right?
confuse
Some of us
mainstream
show
thinking,
it a
remember?
different breath.
Hey, Arvin, when I do my shrimp recipe, I'll show you how to divine really well.
Well, first off, you got to get out of the mentality of overgeneralization and then just wanting to see the bigger picture without the consequences of seeing the bigger picture, which is usually the problem for the consciousness, because it's very tough to see the bigger picture. It really is. And you forget when you forget what it was like. But then some
Like the
people
royal
get
you,
stuck
mate.
in this addictive cycle of just wanting to think they understand, and then they start overgeneralizing everything to just sound like they're doing all this important thinking while not actually saying anything. And that's exactly what you've been doing, Spurs Schemo, in the
Well,
last
I'd like to get Spurs Chemo's. I'd like to get his take on what Nathan should do. What if you were like the master of Nathan, what would you have him do? Give us like a list, like stepwise.
Well, I know. I mean, when I've been out there, there are some people who think they're some of the best scientists known to man or something. And I'm just thinking, goodness me, if Nathan was here right now, right? This wouldn't even get off the tracks. They wouldn't even be able to get so far. And this is what we're talking about. Been out. You've seen what Anthony can do when he's out there, devastating against these people, right? And this is what I would do. I would get someone like Nathan out there to face the people who think that they know it all. That's what it's all about. I mean, yeah, we've got the internet people, but that's the show. If we're talking about serious change or serious awareness, someone like Nathan with what he's how he understands everything should not be silent. I think in this moment.
All right, so he should look up people that are staying out of it and bother them.
Nathan, go stalk the people.
Is that
So,
what
no,
you
not
think is
again.
good?
I don't know.
You should go out
You
there.
talk about it.
I was the one
You
that
talk
asked
about
him.
it. Whatever he's comfortable.
So, in lieu of his constant withdrawing, you want him out there, boots on the ground, challenging people.
I want him. I would like to see him. The colleges, universities, just the professionals, like that. Just like we saw, like Anthony speak to those maths people, whatever. Something like this. More of this. Yeah, it's what we need. It's what needs. We're trying to raise awareness. So these are the kind of things that we need. And QE also. These arguments need to be taken out there because they're so strong. So what are we waiting for? We've waited for something like this, and this is what we should be doing. Definitely. Absolutely.
Well, maybe this is just the first part. Maybe we are building up to something. Maybe we're just perfecting our skills because we are facing an academic world as well, It's very tough to do this.
No,
If
Nathan
you
is-
just pick the
Nathan
first
is-
argument that seems really, really good and just gung-ho in there, yeah, you're probably going to get slaughtered because it's a really tough opponent, basically, that system we face. So I don't think it's a very smart
in
idea.
this argument.
Revolutions rarely end well. You got to take it slowly, piece by piece, example by example. Keep it calm, keep it steady. Rub the feeling off
Another
that
thing,
it is
QE,
stable, that it
Nathan,
can keep
you're
on
requested
going.
to
That
go
is
to
what
the
the world
conferences,
really
things
needs.
like
Oh, and
this.
he's not interested in
now
actually.
you can start interrupting.
He's not interested in actually listening to you. He's just waiting for an opportunity to talk. And by the time he's got bored, he's just going to talk straight through you at QE. It's amazing, really.
Because we want you out there, Nathan. We need you.
Who's we?
This fire that's in your belly should be directed at the right institutions, right? If we're really doing this for the right reasons, again, I don't think if you don't recognize what you've got, right? Maybe you need coaxing, massaging, whatever it takes to get you out there to face these big guns and put them down the same way that you're doing here right now. Right?
You mean
That's what we
like
need to be doing.
a daily show? You mean like a daily show that is there and that people can spread and share?
No,
So
they won't
everyone
come.
out there
They're
hearing
afraid.
this, share
So
this show, because that's the
mix
way
it up,
it's spreading,
mix it up.
and that
No
way
one's
it's
saying-
always there for people to find instead of paying a lot of money to travel and do specific little things. While, is Nathan gonna take his family with him? It doesn't make any sense, man. Doesn't make any sense what you're saying. Think about what you're saying.
That's why we
God's
talk
sake.
about it. Yeah, you talk about it, you arrange it. Again, you're not rushing into anything. You make sure Nathan's comfortable with all these things, but at least, make grounds to do it, is what I think. Anyway, that's my opinion. It doesn't have to do anything like that. That's just the point. People want him out there.
What do you have in your ears, man?
Can we talk? Spurs, it sounds to me that you got a passion for it, so why are you not doing it? Why are you trying to push Nathan to do something that you got a passion for?
But yeah, I go out there all the time. So I'm always out there. Yeah, that's why I get asked. Like when I'm out there, other flat earthers are like, "Oh, can you get Nathan to come out and do this as well?" Like I can ask him. But that's what people want. People because they recognize the power
Spurs,
of the
different
argument.
strokes for different folks, man. Not everybody is going to do the same thing.
Chocolate,
Not
I
everybody
know.
is going to
just a
have the same
request.
tactic.
Don't attack me
Right?
here. I'm just
So when
requesting.
you hit the corner and you're hitting people with flat earth, that's fantastic. And I applaud you when you do it. I've seen you do it. It's awesome. But that's not up to Nathan to do unless he chooses to do that. He has his own platform. There are basically like 300 people watching the show every day when it's live, right?
But in this
I mean,
situation,
what
again,
do you want him to do? Get in his car and go to the grocery store and debate somebody in the grocery store? I mean, is that
yes
what you want
and
him
no,
to do?
yes and no,
I don't
chocolate.
get it.
When you're at war, chocolate, though, you need your best soldiers out in the front line, chocolate. Right? This is the point here. You're missing the point. This is not just, let's just talk to.
Hello,
we're
chocolate
at war
at
with an
work.
opposition.
Where's he gonna
who wants
go?
to not only ridicule
No, you don't
us,
put your
but they want
best
to take us
soldiers
down.
on point. They'll get shot. You put people
Exactly.
like Spurs and Arwen and Anthony out first.
Oh, thanks.
You move the pawns first.
Yeah.
Do you see? Do you
Well,
see Flat Earth
unfortunately,
Data's
your
video?
best
Flat Earth
soldiers
Data right now,
completely taken over the land.
Flat Earth
You
Data
know,
right
so
now is running around with cards with the Black Swan argument on them, with Nathan's channel, with Quantum Eraser's channel on them, and he's trying to spread the truth that way, getting people to us, to Nathan, right? Now that's what he's doing. You're doing something else. You're over there debating the guys you're debating. You're exposing them. You every once in a while
it's
hit
not
the
just me. You
corners.
got Adam
That's
out there.
dope,
You got
man.
Anthony out
Everybody
there.
has
It's
to
not just
have
me.
their
I'm just saying
own
there
way
are
of
people
going at
who do this.
this.
Arwen's been out there. We saw him in Amsterdam, right?
Yeah, yeah, you saw him in Amsterdam because I filmed him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you were out there as well. Yeah.
I haven't been
You were
exactly
filming,
out.
Yeah, yeah, right. Just for anybody that just takes anything that Spurs says as read and gospel, I've got a whole playlist of all the different organised events that I arranged, all of the different meetups I've been out to, all of the different public stuff that I've done. I've done loads of it. I don't know what you're babbling about, to be perfectly honest, Spurs.
More. We want
just
more
seem
from
impatient. You just
everybody.
seem
Sorry, my wife's just piped up. She says, Spurs, you were there when we were at St. Bees measuring stuff? I was with you at St. Bees doing one of those things where we're out and about bringing stuff to the people.
I remember.
It's
Yes.
not enough.
We
Nathan.
need more.
It's not enough, man. We want more. Okay, I'm sorry, Spurs. I can only spread myself.
I
so
know.
thin.
All right, I'm just joking, half joking, but we do need more. But I'm just saying, let's have a relaxed atmosphere. But the point is, there is an urgency. But I understand not everyone can do everything immediately and all that kind of thing. I'm just saying, in general, it would be nice to have more. That's it. I'm done anyway for today. Thank you very much. Catch you all later.
Yeah, I get it, and I will respond to that. Everyone wants a bit more Nathy. I get it. I understand. There's only so much of me you can all get.
4 hours. 4 more
Did you
hours.
say Nathy?
Yeah, third person.
Yes, he did.
Third person.
Yeah, Spurs Schemo should get a T-shirt that says "We are Spurs Schemo."
At least he didn't call himself Professor Nathy.
Those people annoy me so much. The Dr. Beckys and the Professor Freds. Oh, they just I don't know what it is about using first name and title that just annoys me.
Professor Nathy.
Shh, don't even do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's probably gonna come a meme out of this now.
Yeah, it's back to Newton, isn't it? Newton writes a letter saying, "Oh, for the love of God, don't let them ascribe this gravity nonsense to him." And everyone runs their hands together and goes, "It's going to be Newtonian. That's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it his name."
Yeah, Nathan, you can expect the Queen to come by and give you a special nobility.
Sir Nathan.
Sir Nathan.
Hey, I can't pass this up. In the summertime, Nathan's with
Because
me
you
all the
didn't want-
time because I have Oakley glasses on.
I didn't hear that. I have a baby screaming. Sorry.
I wasn't weak. In the summertime, I wear sunglasses. They're called Oakley. So Nathan's with me all the time. What are you talking about?
That's funny. I have Oakley glasses too.
Yeah, but they're not Professor Nathy's.
Can you stop saying that, please?
Nathan's? That kind of sounds like a diaper brand or something. Sorry.
This is where you've got to.
Is Paula listen to this?
So do I.
Is Paula listening to this?
Can hardly hear anything you're saying.
Dr.
Don't talk
Paula?
to me anymore. If you want to take the piss out of me, now's your time because I can't hear anything.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, listen, I'm asking a question. Is Paula listening to this?
Need to address Dr. Paula correctly, please.
Oh my God! Shut up, Ted.
It's a quiet moment. Go ahead.
Is Paula, your wife, listening to this?
Yes.
That's all I wanted to know.
Immediately, the nice voice comes on.
Gonna go hugging Nathy later.
Hello, Paula.
What does she think you can do more? In lieu of your constant withdrawing.
I think he should just get in his car and just start running around to grocery stores and debating everybody.
It's gonna take a long time, man. It's like, yeah, I'm out for groceries in like 5 hours every single time. It's like, oh yeah, sorry, it's quickly
The,
put this
the
milk in
damn
the
milk is gone bad.
No, you got to go to the meat aisle. Then you can have a meetup.
I got an answer if you want it.
Go ahead.
She said basically you could sod off a bit more often so I could have the house to myself.
Nice.
Typical wives.
Interesting.
Oh, chemo's back. Flatzoid, your mic's a train wreck.
You're
man.
roboting heavily.
Hey, you moron!
You're
Hey, you
robot.
moron!
Just write it. Hey, Flatzoid, just write us a letter, man.
Maybe you should rejoin Discord because you're roboting so heavily we can't make out what you're saying.
Those African mics.
But you want to get any vegetarians there?
I'll round out the show. Flatzoid's destroyed the conversation with his roboting mic.
Sounds like it.
No. I got one last thing. Yeah, there was some conversation going on in chat. Righteous Force requested that please do not use the word flurf anymore. And everyone said, okay, what are we supposed to use then? And I said, daddy.
You can call me daddy. Was that your last word on the subject?
Okay.
Maybe I should invite Nathan to South Africa.
One more time.
What the hell are you babbling about now? What the hell does South Africa have anything to do with what I just said?
Well, it was way out there as well.
Write a letter.
Hey, do I have time to say two things real quick?
As long as they're not in any way rude, or go ahead.
No. One was about the guy talking about. I just wanted to sum up what he was saying. It's kind of like hyperbole about, like the whole transformation from globe indoctrination to flat Earth and God and all that stuff. He was just taking the long road to get to that point, basically. But the other thing was about the black swan. So if the horizon should be no more than 1.22 miles, and we're seeing beyond that 9.4, the second oil rig, and we even see like another, what appears to be like another horizon behind that. Wouldn't it be on the ballers to prove that would be over however many miles of refraction? Like that's like 9 miles, 10 miles, however many miles of refraction. Wouldn't it be on them to actually prove that that's refraction?
No, because a refracted horizon isn't geometric. So that's another flamethrower at the end of it. They could spend a considerable amount of time proving that they can refract light, which you can, but they require a geometric horizon. So yeah, they could, but a flamethrower would still be waiting for them. And with that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who did tune in on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making this after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!